A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Jason Knoedler and the Bank of Springfield. They have a whole baseball team over there. I'm talking Jason Knoedler, Justin Knoedler, Timmy Ballin Wallen, Eric Weaver, Ryan Murphy, Greg Morantz, Murph Mathiet, Frank Stefano. I trust these guys. I respect these guys. Go see them for all your banking needs. Bank boldly with BOS. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Body Cemetery, located at 2201 West White Oaks Drive, bodycemetery.com. More specifically, Chad Marshik, the owner, head trainer. This guy is just amazing on so many levels. He is capable of training anyone from a child to a pro athlete to just your normal everyday person to the elderly. And not only is he a trainer, but he is also adept with, physical therapy, nutrition. Everything is going to be customized to you and what you need. There's a movement analysis when you first come in to address any deficiencies you have. It's all customized. Chad is the most positive, happy guy I've ever been around. Body Cemetery will get you right. I would, put my faith in Chad and his trainers any day. So go to bodycemetery.com, get set up. Chad, we appreciate you. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Christ the King Men's Club. This was facilitated by my good buddy John Chisholm. We grew up playing baseball together, played on the Flame together, played high school ball. He played some college ball at Spoon River. This is a great organization. They put on tons of events. They raise money for the school. They put it back into the academics, into the sports. They do bourbon raffles, breakfast with Santa, mother-son dances, silent auctions. It's all positive. It's all good. We really appreciate you, Christ the King Men's Club. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Milner Dentistry, located at 755 South Grand Avenue West. They can be reached at 217-528-3384. Dr. Ty and his staff are incredible. The place is clean. They do amazing work. They can handle all your dentistry needs. Thanks again to Dr. Ty for agreeing to sponsor us here. He was a standout at Rochester, SCI, and then later had a really cool story of walking on at the U of I. Have a ton of respect for this guy. Please go support Dr. Ty and Milner Dentistry. We are also brought to you by Matt Brewer, an attorney at the law offices of Stephen Kelly here in town. He can be reached at 217-544-8000 or mbrewer@stephenkelly.com. He practices exclusively in personal injury and workers' comp, Matt being a standout football and baseball player at SHG. He then went on to be a standout at SIU Carbondale and then had a short career in the Diamondbacks organization. What a stud. We appreciate you, Matt.
He told me a story on some combine. This was interesting. When you played for the Pride, you'd go out, and I went to this tournament too when I played for the Pride, out in the Kansas City area. Mm-hmm. I think it was Lee Summit maybe or something like that. But Kansas City area, Blue Springs maybe. But there was some sort of a combine there where scouts were going to watch players. And he said you and Jason were like, we're not going to go. We're not even good enough for this. And everyone was like, you are good enough to go. And you ended up doing it and doing well. Pujols was there. Do you remember this at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember all the details.
Okay.
But I do remember the fact that we played against this kid that everybody was raving about. And then it was later they were like, hey, you remember that kid? That's Albert Pujols. That was Albert Pujols.
I'm glad that came up because you had the best Pujols swing impersonation I've ever seen. It was uncanny, and not only could he impersonate you, but he could hit. You could do it.
I actually did it a couple times in a game because you take so many swings, you just kind of lose your swing once in a while. So
sure.
You kind of do something off the wall, imitate somebody.
It was awesome.
And I actually did it when I was down in the Dominican Republic, and I was scuffling, and I was just kind of joking around. Pujols was actually on our roster, but he was never there. Never came to the game.
Really?
And my manager was like, hey, man, no, loosen up a little bit. And I got in the cage, and I was like doing this. He goes, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just trying to be Albert Pujols, man. He goes, well, do that, because that looked awesome.
It did look good, dude. I always thought your Pujols swing looked really good.
Yeah. Well, we can get into my swing progression when we start talking about the Pro Bowl years, because
I would love to talk about that, because I got to watch it.
There was all kinds of things that were a lot of cooks in the kitchen at times.
Yes, dude. We're going to get to that. I've got some very interesting thoughts on that.
But at Lincoln Land, like I said, you have all the success at Lincoln Land. Of course, the pitching isn't what I faced in Pro Bowl, but
Right.
didn't think about any mechanics.
Yeah.
I got in a good stance, I saw the ball, and I hit the ball.
Simple.
Never once did I think about, I got to do this, and I got to load here, and
Right.
I try to get to that when I teach now. But I just see ball, hit ball. That's how simple. That's how simple hitting really is.
Yeah, I love it. Justin has always been a captain, a leader, a very calm presence. Was great at calming down pitchers, a pitcher whisperer, he called you. His arms stood out always, could hit mid-90s playing catcher, just always solid, in charge of what was going on around him, always calming, an unbelievable cleanup hitter, always performing. We always thought he was going to hit a jack. You could see it. You could tell he was locked in. Amongst all the great hitters we had, Justin stood out. Would always be doing extra work before and after practice. I've got an absolutely amazing clip of his. I'm going to save until we get into pro ball, but it was awesome. He never really pitched at Lincoln Land. To have that much control and that much velocity is just unbelievable when you got to pitching. I think had Justin stayed that route, he could have been Jason Mott, who was the former Cardinal that was a catcher going into pro ball, and they converted him into being a pitcher. He thinks you could have been a closer in the big leagues. The Knoedler brothers are just so fun to be around. So there's Frank the Tank.
Well, yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but and we'll get into that decision a little later. But I liked having that. They call it a battery for a reason, right? You're working with the pitchers, and every pitcher that I ever caught was fun to catch. You have to work them a certain way, and you kind of develop rapport with your staff. And I knew that I never had to go out and talk to Scotty Blackwell. Yep. I put down the fingers. He was going to throw it. If I went out there, he'd tell me to get my butt back behind the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys you got to go out there and pat them on the butt, and some guys you got to kick in the rear a little bit. But I loved it. I really did just love to catch. And now all these catchers are catching on one knee. Not to go off on that tangent, but I wasn't allowed to my knees weren't allowed to touch the ground.
Yeah.
And I had Tracy Smith. I remember the first time I was catching it, keep that knee off the ground. He told me to keep my knee on. Now these catchers are putting their knee on the ground, and their gloves moving all over the place.
Yeah.
And so it's just different. But I certainly love to catch, and I love that camaraderie with the pitching staff. So
love it.
It was a nice comment for him to make.
You ready for some Claude quotes?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I love hearing Claude's voice, man. I miss Claude.
No, this is Claude quotes. We've got a couple more Claude clips along the way, but this is just some quotes I thought that were interesting. Rip off it if you want. Besides his obvious athletic skills, he was a person that others were going to follow. Justin had the ability in the world, a great teammate, competitive edge that few rivaled, catching ability, showed up to Lincoln Land pretty much technically sound, a testament to Coach Steinwart at Springfield High. Excellent blocking ability, and there was never any question on his arm. Coaches would see his pregame and decided they were done running for the day. Would tell him that, like, hey, we saw what's going on. We're not running. So could put it on a rope on a dime all the way to second. Had a 5-arm on the 1 through 5 scale. Probably 4 to 5 defensive ability on the 5 scale. 4 power. Really fast. Just a step behind Jason. High end on all aspects. Absolute masher. Greatest offensive season as a player I ever had. Astounding. He had so many RBIs because O'Malley stole so many batting in front of you. Work ethic instilled by his wonderful parents, John and Teresa. He said the Rangers, Cardinals, Astros, Twins were all looking at you at Lincoln Land. Said you pitched a few times for the Rifles and were lighting it up to 93, 94. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I do remember that the first time I ever got clocked was at Lincoln Land, and they got me at 91 from behind the plate.
Shoo.
And then so when I stepped on the mound, I know it was a tick or two higher than that. But like I said, we can talk about the arm all day. I mean, it was always strong. I mean, it was always that's what always got me noticed.
Absolutely.
That drove the bus.
Yep. With some work, could have been a big league closer. Another person said it. Justin did it all. One of the greatest loggers of all time, if not the best. Bruce Richards and I went up to see him in Milwaukee. A delight to coach and to know. Thrilled he treated us so well. Something about you had to wear women's clothes going back on the plane, like the rookie hazing kind of stuff. He was laughing about that. Do you remember what you wore?
Oh yeah. I mean that story is pretty hilarious actually, and we're gonna go there now. But so back then, they're not gonna do that now because, like I said, we're in different times.
Yeah.
But I'm basically leaving. Last game in Milwaukee, we come in from the field, and our clothes are missing from our locker. All that's there is our shoes and a dress. And that's what we were told that we were wearing out of the ballpark. So I've got several people there. I mean, that was the first time we had kind of made the Midwest tour when I was in the big leagues. Yep. And so I was in a dress, and David Ardsma was in a leotard, and we had I mean, there were 6 or 7 of us. We were all, some guys got off. I mean, I got off pretty easy. I mean, there was Matt Cain had to wear a diaper with a bib and a pacifier. One guy had a really tight leather miniskirt on. I mean, you're not going to see that today.
No.
Unfortunately. I mean, it was just part of the game back then. You got hazed, and I'd do it all over again.
Yeah, I love it, man.
100%. And so there were some pictures they were snapping pictures of me coming out, and taking the.
There's a picture.
Back then we didn't have the cameras on the phone.
Right. Someone's got this picture of you in a dress?
Yeah, it's somewhere. I'm sure it's in my stack of stuff. But
that's great. Let's see. Still has pictures of snow pushed to the side on the loggers outside the parking lot. You guys taking infield and playing and stuff like that. Like, you guys weren't going to be stopped by something like that.
No, yeah. I mean, if we get outside, we get outside.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
I had a cool convo with Claude about the importance of JUCO development, and he kind of thought, or was talking about where would you have been had you gone to SIU Carbondale and sat for a year or two, or Eastern or one of those schools. It's interesting to ponder.
I never think about it. I really don't. There's a couple scenarios that I could replay in my mind, like what if, but you just don't know.
Sure.
And so I try not to play that game. When it comes to developing as a catcher, Steinwert had, they'd give you a few tidbits. Obviously, he had coached Scott Jarvis, so he had some insight on what it took to be like a strong defensive catcher and what have you. And then, Stash had some stuff. But there was one guy that we haven't mentioned yet that I did do a couple lessons with, and that's Mike Ananacci. Oh. And he had the hitting center there inside the old taxi cab, yellow cab place. And I did do a few sessions with him.
Really?
And that kind of jump started a little bit of some real catching instruction on. And I was pretty raw.
Yeah.
I just get down a squat, catch the ball, exchange it, throw it. It was all just kind of natural. But
right.
Refining those skills, I got to have a little pick bits and pieces from some of those guys along the way. So
for sure.
And then Coach Krasik had some stuff, and to say that I was refined when I got to Lincoln Land, I would disagree to a point. Sure. But the skill was more natural.
Yeah.
So
let's go a little bit further. We'll take a little break, a little bathroom break or something. But drafted in the 13th round by the Giants there after your sophomore year.
Sophomore year, yeah.
How close were you to signing? What'd that feel like?
There was a lot of talk leading up to that draft. I mean, obviously had a great year. A lot of people were saying, okay, what's it going to take for you to sign? So, like I said, the Giants were probably the hottest team on me. Steve Arneri was the scout. You still had Scott Melvin. You still had some other players, the Rangers and Twins and like Astros and whatnot. And I filled out forms for all these teams, but I kept telling everybody the same thing. If I'm drafted in the top 10 rounds and I get, top 10 round money, that the signing bonus is always the big deal that I'd, probably sign.
Yeah.
I had the Miami of Ohio already signed. I was going to get, 75% scholarship basically to go to there, and Jason was going to get 50 something. And so it was a really good offer. We had a really good package offer to go to a really good school.
Yeah.
And the draft day comes and the 10th round ends and I'm still not picked. And I'm like, okay,
that's it.
Not a big deal.
Really?
I'm gonna go to Miami of Ohio. I got a great thing ahead of me. Like why would I be crushed?
Right.
Well, then I'm selected with the 13th pick, and they come at me and they say, we want to offer you this, and I said. That was never the deal. I said, you go back and look at all the forms. All these questions, mind games, and I'm sure there's ways that they want to see answered this, but they're always worded in certain ways. I basically said, I want to be drafted in the top 10 rounds and get the money that pick is worth. And had no agent. At this time, had no agent at this point. No, we ended up getting an agent when after Miami of Ohio, after we both knew that we had a chance to get drafted. But this was all me. I mean, this is kind of Coach Krasik was helping because he had some guys, with some experience go through it, and basically did consult a little bit with Dennis Worth, I think, at the time. Cause
Really?
Dennis Worth actually did a couple of hitting lessons with him back in the day, too.
Dennis being Jason Worth's dad, for those of you that don't
So
know.
I remember, just a little bit. But long story short, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and I was going to hold up my end.
Yeah,
I
you
said,
meant it.
I want to be a top 10. If I was the last pick in the 10th round, maybe it's a different story. But I was the 13th pick for the Giants, and I just said, look, if they would have come at me with, triple the money that I would have got, maybe. But
what if they had come at you with 10th round money or 8th round money, even though you went in the 13th round?
But they didn't.
They did not.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm. They never. They basically started asking me, what was it going to take to sign? It's like, well, I wanted top 10 round money. I wanted to be drafted in the top 10 rounds. I think that was worth me skipping the experience, the D1 experience.
Yeah.
And so a little back and forth, and finally I just squashed it. And
Really?
I said, look, I'm gonna go to Miami of Ohio. I'm going to go with my brother. Follow me next year. And so
Big boy decision.
And I was talking with Dan Simons. So Dan Simons was the catching guy at Miami of Ohio.
Okay.
And he played pro ball, was a catcher, got a little bit of big league time too. And he basically said, I was just kind of talking with him through this process, and he goes, Justin, he goes, if they're not coming at you with this dollar amount, and I don't even remember what that dollar amount was, he goes, you come to Miami of Ohio, you'll be a top 5 round pick. That's what he told me.
Nostradamus over here.
I was the last pick in the 5th round. We're gonna get there. I was the last pick in the 5th round that year. It was crazy.
Wow.
Absolutely crazy. And there was no cahoots there. I mean, it just happened that way. And so, and we haven't gotten there yet, but I got hurt at Miami and everything else. And so
he spoke it into existence.
And
that's crazy.
It was just wild. And so again, no regrets. Got to go to Miami and have a great experience there, and got to witness my brother have the best year of his career. I mean, it was just insane.
Yeah, we'll get there.
So yeah, it was just an amazing experience of that draft, Lincoln Land. Like I said, I can't say enough good things about the program and all the people affiliated with it. And I was very fortunate to have each and every one of them in my life.
Logger for life, man.
Yeah, you got it.
So you ended up just playing the Rifles then that summer again.
Yeah. I think that was my only option. I don't recall getting any opportunity to go anywhere else that year.
Like a Cape or something like that.
Or with
like
the connections at Miami of Ohio, I think they probably could have made something happen. Or actually, I don't think they could have. I think you have to be part of their program in order to place you. But the Rifles was a good opportunity.
Absolutely.
I mean, they had great ball there, and so yeah, just did that. And I have no idea what my performance was like with the Rifles. I'm sure I had moments of where I played well and moments where I probably struggled.
There's no stats out there at all. The CICL page went under about 5 years ago. It used to be up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they were there until about 5 years ago. So there's no way to get them.
No idea how I did. I just know it was a great experience. Yeah. I mean, really enjoyed it. Like I said, I love to play baseball. I didn't care that I spent my entire summer playing baseball. That's what I wanted to do.
Right. So let me rip off some Ryan O'Malley quotes, and then we'll take a little break here.
Yeah,
cool? And then riff off anything you want to. First interaction would have been in high school, maybe football, or possibly the Pride while I played for the Sun. Didn't really talk to them much, but was aware of them.
True.
Great competitors, great athletes. They never talked shit, just wanted to win. Enjoyed the SHG rivalry, which a lot of us did back in the day. The work ethic they put in, great talent. They used everything that they had. Cannon behind the plate, just a bazooka. Caught for me when we were with the Rifles as opposed to the Loggers. He said Coonsey caught him quite a bit with the Loggers.
He did.
Because that would be
it was game 2.
Double headers. Yeah, so Blackwell would be doing his thing in game 1, and then you get a break in game 2.
Yeah, they either play first or DH. Yeah.
Yep. So let's see. Justin could fly. Absolutely would run past guys going to first covering. I could see that. The hitting power the guy had. He was absolute masher. I was lucky to hit third because I got the first crack at driving in runs. He was going to clear him if I didn't. True definition of a cleanup hitter. Nothing like that group, the 2000 team. I look back at all those teams that won, and the teams that had the camaraderie were the best. That 2000 team had the camaraderie, the brotherhood, and the talent. I was lucky to do life with those guys. We're friends for life. We still pick right back up where we left off when you see each other. No question that group of guys and that work ethic. We bled together. We drew out the best in each other. That was a really cool quote. The arm that guy had, we're never going to get off your arm. What a rocket. It plays everywhere. He could play in today's game. where my stuff probably wouldn't. Such a testament to the athlete he was on his pitching. His arm would bother him, so this is cool. So I wondered this. Were you still throwing from that same like short stroke, that catcher slot when you pitched? Or would you try to lengthen it?
No, I did try to lengthen it, and it did hurt my arm a little bit.
That kind of messed you up.
It really did. And I did have a bone spur in my elbow at Lincoln Land, and I had to have a cortisone shot put into it.
Really?
Same thing with my thumb. Being a refined catcher, my thumb still took a beating. And then my elbow, I remember going to Dr. Wadawa, and there was a little bone chip in there, and he's like, well, I don't really want to remove it. We just make it feel better. Yeah. And so that's what we did, and I've never really had an arm issue since.
There you go.
So.
But, he said he wondered that you were having a lot of stress on your arm. He said your arm kind of hurt some when you actually were pitching, like you were having some issues.
Yeah, we got sore, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of major league careers are based on timing and opportunity. Giants were loaded at catcher during his time. So hard on a call-up to perform. You want to stay. You want to be, get consistent at bats. You might be pressing. When you do get in a bat, it's really difficult. You never get treated the same once you leave the original club, your organization. That's so true, and that's, I think, really cool.
Yeah, we'll certainly get into that when we get into the pro years.
Absolutely. It's always on to the next. You're never treated the same. That's interesting because, right, when you're drafted, the organization knows you, these coaches know you, the players know you. So when you go to a whole new place, you don't have all these guys that are in your corner. Is that pretty accurate?
Exactly right.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So O'Malley, friend for life, man. That guy, like I said, we actually were on the phone with him a little bit today. He called my brother when we were together, but miss that guy like crazy, man. He's out in Arizona doing his thing, raising his family.
Yeah,
but
he's doing great.
That 2000 team, like I said, some of my closest friends, coworkers today, one of the best teams I've ever been a part of, and we could have competed with anybody in the country that year. I strongly believe that with Scotty Blackwell or Ryan O'Malley on the mound in one game. I'm not saying we'd beat them 4 out of 7 or 9 out of 10, but anybody in the country, one game,
Division I included,
with Scotty Blackwell on the mound, we would have competed. I'm not saying we would have won,
agree.
But that's baseball. Baseball, you can. I mean, look at the Dodgers. I mean, they go out and buy a team every year, and they're still going to lose games this year.
That's the truth.
And so
you guys could have
with Scotty Blackwell on the mound, and even Ryan O'Malley, we would have competed with anybody in the country.
And Krasik even made an interesting comment about. He said he wishes you guys were a 4-year school and what you guys could have done together if you stayed together for 4 years.
Four-year schools, they play 4-game conference sets, and they've got a Scotty Blackwell going four games in a row.
Sure, but.
And so, and I hate to even say Scotty that over O'Malley because O'Malley had a heck of a career, but pitching didn't really become O'Malley's best thing until he was at senior year at Memphis and then got into Pro Ball. So, Scotty was our ace, and O'Malley would admit that. So I always say with Scotty Blackwell on the mound with his fastball and his curveball, we could have competed with anybody.
Love it. Last O'Malley quote. He liked to laugh about getting the city boy growing up on State Street into deer hunting with me.
Again, that's one of those things we miss. But when we were basically single and in the off season, we could do as much of that as we wanted. Yeah. So, but definitely enjoyed those times and missed those times too. So
let's take a little break here.
Let's do it.
We'll convene in a second. You
covered some good ground. Yeah.
Okay, we're back. We're going to call this part 2 now. We took a little break. We're going to get into our Miami of Ohio days. This is really interesting. Where you and Jason kind of flip-flopped.
Yeah.
So you went from being the National Player of the Year in the junior college at Lincoln Land. The next year, Coach Tracy Smith takes you guys in, takes Jason in kind of as just because he's the twin. That's what he said. His words, not mine.
Oh, I listened to the Justin Knoedler story.
Right.
And it's all true.
Yeah.
It's 100% true.
And then Jason goes on to have, one of the greatest college offensive years ever. I mean, All-American. He's the male athlete of the year at Miami of Ohio. I mean, he really goes off.
Yeah, unbelievable. And it finally clicked for him. It happened for him, and, we talked about, him just kind of being in my shadow a little bit. And I hate even using that term because, we were always a team. We were the K team, right? But I was getting the recognition. I was, getting drafted, and he was right there. I mean, he was having great years at Lincoln Land too, and he had all the tools, but just wasn't quite getting across that threshold for the scouts for whatever reason that was. And when he got to Miami, it clicked. He obviously, became, you can listen to the story. He became a switch hitter, and he just
that's the
ends up
thing
just
that just is
just
most
going
astounding to
off.
me.
So one of the most impressive things I've ever watched,
Yeah.
and got to witness, and couldn't be more proud to be a part of that.
It's a great story.
So, but yeah, my experience at Miami, we got on campus, get into the fall, and just kind of a little bit different than Lincoln Land.
Let's
Lincoln,
talk about it. Yeah,
Lincoln Land was great, and we did things, a certain way there, and then we get to Miami, and it's up a notch. I mean, it's up a few notches. Right. I mean, you think you're working hard, and then you realize, okay, you got more capacity than what you thought you had.
And you probably got a strength coach there, and like it's just more There's just more stuff, more facilities, more resources.
Yeah, and you're feeling your way through. You're meeting the guys. Obviously, there's guys there that have been there for 4 years, and they're close. And here are these two guys that are juniors that are just kind of getting thrown into the mix, and they knew they needed us. They had holes, and I do remember that the catcher that we had at the time, there was another junior and a senior. And so I was probably looked at, okay, here's the guy I got to compete with,
this
right?
Guy's
and
taking our buddy's spot.
Yeah, this guy's coming in to steal my job, And so, but they made us feel welcome. All the guys did, We had a couple great leaders on that team, Jeremy Eisen, who ended up playing pro ball as a shortstop and coached there for a while. We had Brady Norai, who was a first baseman, who was, Mr. Miami, man. The guy, I think his family all kind of went through Miami, and great guy. And then Tom Yost, big, burly, just left-handed hitter, and just dropped hammers, man. The guy was strong as an ox.
Yeah.
And then Clark Mace in center field. So we had some really talented guys, and we didn't know that in the fall. But then you start to realize, oh boy, we got some good offense here, And then you look at our pitching staff, and we've got Chris Leonard. Chris Leonard, a left-handed pitcher that had unbelievable pickoff move. This guy could walk you and then pick you off. I mean, it was unreal. He had the best left-handed pickoff move ever. And then we had some other guys, Billy Kinninger and Russ. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his last name. But these guys all played pro ball too. Single. Our top 3 starters all got drafted at some point. I don't know if they all got drafted that year, but then we had Jeremy Eisen, our shortstop, and Clark Mace, myself, and we all played pro ball. So there were 7 or 8 guys on that team that all played pro ball.
Wow.
So,
do you have how did your fall go there? That's a big jump from JUCO to D1.
Yeah, but we don't. You don't play many games at the D1 level, so we inter-squatted a lot. Yeah. We had our red and white game. Good. I think fit in just fine. Right. But there wasn't really any stats. We got after it in the weight room. We got after it in conditioning.
Right.
There was no slacking, man. I mean, if you got caught slacking, the whole team suffered. I mean, there was a real team camaraderie there, and I remember we're doing this like kind of a ultimate sit-up thing, and I'm with Tom Yost, who's the biggest, strongest guy on the team, and I've got to put my feet on his shoulders, and I'm just doing these crunches, and if your back hits the ground, we start all over. Yeah. The time starts over, and he's grabbing my shirt, and he's yanking me up, and I'm just like, this guy. It took our work ethic to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I remember we left for winter break. And I don't know if Jason talked about this story on his cast or not, but we get back and we call what they do the fun run, and the fun run was around the basketball arena. They around the stadium, kind of there was an indoor track essentially, and it might have been 250 yards, but you were partnered up with somebody that was similar to your speed. So Jason and Clark Mace were 1-2, and then it was me, and I can't even remember who my partner was, but you had to get 12 in your time. You were given a partner and you were given a time. They'd say go, and you'd race around, and the coaches would put you on the clock, and if you made it, that was 1. And you had to do 12 of them in your time. If you didn't make it, didn't count.
Yeah.
They strategically had garbage cans all around that track because guys were yakking. Yeah. And I can honestly say I made all 12 of my times and did not throw up. But they warned us, like, hey, when you come back from break, it's the fun run. You better be ready to rock.
Ready, yeah.
And
fun run is not going to be so fun.
Oh my gosh, that was the hardest workout. We also did this thing called climbing the mountain, and I actually did this at Lincoln Land when I started coaching. We brought it into the indoor.
Is this Tracy Smith stuff or is this
it's all
strength coach stuff?
I think it was all Tracy Smith stuff because I mean he wanted
feeling he didn't play around.
No. He wanted to see how hard you could go. Yeah. He wanted to see when were you going to tap out.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and he didn't want to see tap out, but he got some guys that tap out or throw up or whatever.
Yeah.
But so the mountain is okay. I think it's the length of a volleyball court, and so you had to go from baseline to baseline in like 3 seconds. Well, then it was baseline to baseline, back to baseline in like 7 seconds. Well, then it was 3 lengths, then it was 4 lengths, and 5 lengths, and sometimes you'd be like, all right, we're going to climb the mountain up to 10. Well, once you climb the mountain, then you got to go back down.
Oh man.
And it's the same concept. If you don't make the time, it doesn't count. And so guys are grabbing guys and throwing them across the line. I mean, I'd never been a part of anything like this.
Right.
But man, you picked your teammates up.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that kind of set the tone for just, this is how we're going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what this team's all about. This is what this program's all about. And we got into spring. We had a great spring.
Do you feel like you integrated yourself into that culture, that team eventually?
Yeah, because we had it in our our work ethic, right? So
you guys are great guys. I figured it wouldn't take long.
Yeah, I mean, and so you learn the Miami way,
Yeah.
and so you're no longer you're no longer a logger. You're a Red Hawk, and so we bought in, and it's easy to do because you got Tracy Smith, you got Dan Simons, who was a major league catcher and catching guy, and you just bought in. And so we get into spring, and we get after it. We go down, we play Alabama. We went out to Fresno and played Fresno State, and we played Illinois out there, and I think we played Notre Dame out there. We played some really good schools. It's the first time we've gotten to play, and I'm not off to a very good start. And matter of fact, I remember this. We were playing against Fresno State, and Jason was on first, and we're losing. I just want to win, right? And he gets thrown out trying to steal second base. I'm like, what's he doing? Why would we steal there? Something like that. And Tracy Smith heard me, and he goes, don't you ever show me up like that again. I'm the one that sent him. And I'm like, you got it, Skip. Sorry, Skip.
Yeah.
He came to my hotel room later that night. We got back to the room, and he told Jason to take a walk. And he came into my room,
Oh boy.
and he said, we don't show up our teammates, we don't show up our coaches. I will never sacrifice the integrity of this program for any one individual. Yada yada yada. And I was just like, wow.
This is the story you were saying. He put you in your place.
Yeah. And I didn't mean anything by it.
Sure.
I was just frustrated that we got thrown out.
Yeah.
And I told him that. I said, Skip, I was like, no disrespect, man. Like I would never intentionally show you up or question your judgment.
No, that's not the
I was just mad that my brother got thrown out. I'm not used to seeing that.
Yeah. He's thrown off.
Yeah.
He never gets thrown out.
And he understood, but he goes, I just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And he had a way to get his point across, and we were cool. Like
Sure.
I wasn't getting benched.
Right.
Yeah. I think he just wanted to make a point, like, hey, this is my program. We're going to do things this way. And obviously, the guy's gone on and had a hell of a coaching career.
Yeah, he was at Arizona State for a while, Indiana for a while, and now he's in Michigan.
But 1 year at Miami wasn't enough, man. I would have loved to have stayed, but it was kind of a bittersweet thing, man, because I loved my experience there. I loved it. I would go back there in a heartbeat. I would love to, replay that year in my mind, or have a chance to replay it physically. But so we get into spring, and April 13th comes. We go to Buffalo, and I take a check swing, and I break my hand. Hamate breaks, and I don't come out of the game. Well, actually, I finished the inning. How did that go? Actually, let me back up. I don't think I was actually catching that game. I think I was DHing, because somehow I went back up for another at bat, and I hit left-handed. My hand is broken. He said he didn't want me to come out because he wasn't sure if it was, he goes, can you bunt? Can you slap at it or whatever? I don't know what the reason was, but
Really?
I actually went back up left-handed and tried to put down a bunt.
You get down?
I don't even remember. I just remember that my hand was numb. It even hurt to take a practice swing. Yeah. And so finally, I think I did come out of the game. I went to the ER that night. They took the X-rays, and it was negative.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
hard to see.
Yeah, and sure as heck, we get back to Miami after the trip, and they take the inverted angle or whatever it is, and they say, "Yep, you got a broken hamate."
There it is. Yeah.
And they said it usually has to come out.
Yep.
But we ended up getting a bone stimulator and didn't have surgery right away, and we were trying to heal that thing. But in the meantime, I braced it up, and I just started throwing off the mound. And
was this a conversation you had with Tracy? Like, hey, I can throw gas, or he thought you could throw like?
I think it was just like I was already wasting a year of eligibility. I'd already played too many games.
Right. Yeah.
Because this was early, mid-April.
Yeah.
And he says, I said, look, man, I think he might have asked me, hey, can you pitch? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? I can pitch. And so they throw me on the mound, and before you know it, I'm throwing 95, 96 miles an hour. And
That's ridiculous.
And all I got is a fastball. I don't have anything that spins.
Nothing.
I might like a Vulcan changeup maybe, because I didn't really experiment. I just fastball.
Yeah.
And it's straight as a string.
Yeah.
And so I might have thrown 7 or 8 innings. I don't even remember how many innings I pitched while I was there.
16.
Oh, okay. I threw 16 innings. I do remember getting absolutely shelled at Ohio University.
They gave it to you?
Ryan Keyes was playing over there, who's affiliated here with Springfield.
Is that J.R. Keyes' cousin or
Yes.
brother or something like that?
Yeah, Ryan Keyes.
Okay.
And this guy, and he played in the Rifles League too. He played in the CICO.
That's right. Jason was talking about imitating his swing.
This kid could turn around any fastball.
Bash.
I could have been throwing 110, and he would have turned it around.
Really?
Matter of fact, I used to watch his dad throwing batting practice, and it seemed like he was about 5 feet away throwing absolute BBs, and he just whap, whap,
Really?
whap. Oh, my gosh. Ryan Keyes could turn around a fastball as good as anybody.
Ryan Keyes.
As good as anybody. And so I gave up several runs there. I don't even know how many it was, but that inflated my ERA quite a bit. But
7.
Yeah.
7.02.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not a great ERA.
No.
But obviously a big arm.
I don't
and,
know
figuring out how to pitch.
How many did you have any strikeouts I had?
19 Ks, 4 base on balls. But with that
So
few
19 Ks in 16 innings.
yeah, so
okay.
like with this few of an innings, all it takes is a bad outing to just destroy your ERA, you know?
Yeah, that's
so
true.
that can be misleading.
Yeah, and I do remember it was at University of Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a cool Tracy quote here, or clip. Here we go.
Again, if memory, I may blur this a little, but I think it was right at the start of conference season. It was like he was already showing, this who he was, and he was an integral part of what we were doing. And then you get that hamate injury, which for most baseball players is it's a death sentence, at least for that immediate time being. But going back to the athleticism and who he is, and the tool that he had, which was that right arm, it was one of those, hey man, we know you throw the ball hard, you want to pitch, and he's a competitive guy, and rather than sit and watch everybody play, he put that brace on, put that brace on and put it under his glove and hopped up on the mound. And again, I think one of his last pitches for us, and he helped. I mean, he contributed coming in and throwing 93 to 95 off the mound. Yeah. And then ultimately getting drafted, I think it was fifth round, I think it was, or fifth round pitcher. Yeah. Yep. So that to me speaks to who he is as an athlete, type of competitor he was. And
pretty cool.
Oh yeah, 100%. And thank Tracy for even giving me the opportunity, because the Giants were very heavily on me, and at this time the Giants are probably bummed. They're like, okay, we're still following him. He's hurt. Have no idea where my numbers were offensively leading up to that injury, but again, that right arm of mine carries me through, and
right arm.
It did. It got me recognized in high school, and so I get on the mound. I'm throwing hard, and the cross checker who ended up being the vice president of operations for the Giants was Dick Tidrow. And Dick Tidrow, later on, once I signed, he said, as soon as I saw you throwing on the mound and you threw that hard, I knew that I had an unbelievable catching prospect and a pitching prospect. And if you know Dick Tidrow drafted power arm after power arm after power arm after power. Kane, Lincecum, Artsma, all these guys that the Giants drafted. And we'll get into my first year in pro ball here in a minute, but I was a dime a dozen, but that's all. So once he saw that, he's like, okay, we're gonna take this guy in the 5th round. Yeah. And again, Dan Simons, you guys, we'll get you drafted in the top 5 rounds, no problem. And here I am. I played half a season as a catcher, if that.
less than that.
and still get drafted in the 5th
Your
round.
offensive stats are not listed. I'm not sure why, but they're not. No, they're not listed on there.
If I recall, I mean, I was hitting like 270.
It couldn't have been much. You couldn't have been.
It's hitting like 270 with 8 or 9 home runs. I mean, I hit a few home runs.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that power was still there, but obviously the average was down a little bit, and I did get off to somewhat of a slow start average wise, but the numbers were there power wise, but yeah, I mean, just a crazy run, and this whole time though I'm sitting here like, this is it, my season's over.
Yeah, it's a wash.
I'm thinking my junior year, this is my leverage year for the draft. I remember calling my mom when I found out that it was broken. I called her and I was like, Mom, my hand's broken, and I broke down. I mean, I was crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, because now I'm really thinking like, this is my dream. Like I've kind of flipped the script from where I was in high school, not really having much of an idea.
Now it matters.
And now I'm like, man, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Definitely what I want. And sure as heck, you believe what you want, but God had plans and it happened. And so it came about, and I get drafted in the 5th round, and this whole time I'm watching my brother have this unbelievable, All-American year.
So he's getting drafted.
And, the scouts were all over him, and they were projecting him. They were still projecting me anywhere between 5 and 10 for whatever reason. Yeah. And they were projecting Jason anywhere from the 2nd round to the 6th or 7th round. And so I thought there's no way in heck am I going in front of him. Yeah. And I remember listening to Jason's story.
You got to laugh out of it.
Yeah, what
do I have to do?
Yeah, he could not have done anything more, and I couldn't have done anything less. I mean, I played half a season and threw 16 innings on a mound, and
with a 7 ERA, and you still beat him, or not beat him, but you get drafted a little ahead of him. But it's a great story.
It is a hell of a story.
11 picks apart,
and that. We had a chance to go to the regional that year. We got beat in the conference tournament, and I remember playing Kent State, and they had the 8th overall pick on their team that year. His name was John Van Scoten, and our agent ended up representing him too. But John Van Scoten was a two-way guy. He pitched against us one game. He was a 93 to 95 guy, and then he also hit like 3 home runs against us. I mean, he was an absolute stud. Yeah. Ended up having an injury. He played a few years in the big leagues and got hurt too. But anyway, had we just gotten through, Kent State I think had to beat us twice, and they did. Wow. And so they ended up going to the regional, and we fell short. So, but great group of guys, great experience, great coaches, memories of a lifetime. My only regret is that I wish we could have spent more time there. Sure. And unfortunately, you only get so many years of college baseball, and 2 of those were spent at at Lincoln Land, and but certainly cherished the entire experience. Absolutely. For sure.
You were Red Hawk. I've got a Jason clip about you pitching, and then some Tracy Smith quotes, and then we'll get to the draft here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I know you, when you did the podcast with me, Tracy Smith told that funny story about me, and I was just kind of the second fiddle, the second twin. But when Justin stood on the mound, when they gave him an opportunity, it was when we had some pitchers that just had some command problems too. And I mean, the fact that he got up there and he could just pump strikes, and I remember Tracy Smith saying, "See, man, I told you it's not that freaking hard, guys. I mean, we got a guy that hasn't done it for a year. He gets up there and starts pumping strikes. And oh, by the way, he's throwing mid-90s."
I don't think that's funny because Tracy did have this. It's not that hard. And he'd go, "What are you scared?"
What are you scared?
To him scared?
A couple times, I could picture him saying that.
Yeah. I would have loved to have gotten more than 1 year with Tracy, because there was a lot of just influence there, and obviously he's probably impacted. He's impacted so many big league careers. So
I got some Tracy Smith quotes. Recruiting was vastly different than it is today. Through the network we had, you mentioned it. We knew about this guy at Lincoln Land. We went to go see him. Pulled up to the yard and was watching the loggers warm up, and it was very obvious who Justin was, even if you didn't see, a glove in his hand. The body, the physique, how he carried himself, the arm. He fit what we needed. It was funny. The funny story about Jason was kind of a throw-in to this whole thing. It's just nuts. And then he goes on to explode. Knew he had a good-looking physical athlete with a bazooka for an arm. He was defined by that, but we weren't totally sure what we had. probably wouldn't have been able to sign him today. And with how much exposure guys get, you probably would have ended up somewhere bigger. Really impressive in the fall, so physical, such a toolsy guy. The power was real. Behind the plate was always going to give him a chance to be on the field, to play pro ball. Thrilled when we got him on campus. I admired that that he would do whatever to get on the field. I'll take the ball. I'll help the team win. That's a big part of who he is. Obviously, a great upbringing. Maybe the JUCO route gave him a bit of a chip on his shoulder, something to prove. Let's see. Really cool how close they went in the draft, 11 picks apart. It's really special when one of your best players is one of your hardest workers. Tracy Smith.
No, appreciate that he took the time, in his schedule to talk about myself and Jason, and
he's excited to talk about it.
He's had a heck of a journey himself, and so I can't say it enough, but I wish I could have had more time with him. But obviously some very nice words there. So.
Let's talk about this draft, buddy. This is a really magical draft. I remember the picture in SJR of you and Jason.
Yeah.
You guys got picked. You went in the 5th round. He went 11 picks later in the 6th round to the Tigers. Just what was that draft day like? What was it like leading up to that?
Yeah, so we knew that the draft was possible. I mean, I thought my situation was not what it ended up being. I thought, okay, maybe I still fall into the top 10 rounds, but all the buzz was about Jason.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up getting an agent, or representative at the time. I don't know if you could officially sign with an agent, but Joe Bick with ProStar Management out of Cincinnati. What an unbelievable guy. Was like, I'd love to represent you guys and help you out through the draft. And he was tight with Tracy and Dan Simons at Miami. And so kind of just he reached out to some of the scouts and kind of, what are you hearing? And, I think the Cardinals were really big on Jason at the time. I think there was a couple other team. And I think Jason said it in his podcast, the Tigers, he doesn't even remember talking much to the Tigers. Yeah. So, but long story short, I'm sitting here just waiting, from the 2nd round. We're watching it on, the old dial-up modem, and in the back room there at State Street.
Man,
and
I can picture
it's
it
all
now.
kind of slow. It's coming through. We keep refreshing it, trying to say, okay, there's another pick. And we get to the 2nd round. And we're like, okay, now it's real. You never know. And so, 2nd round comes and 3rd round comes. And, okay, all right, we're still in that window. And, you're just starting to get excited.
Sure.
And all of a sudden we refresh the screen, and the last pick of the 5th round was made, and there's my name, and I'm like, no freaking way. I'm like, first, and then all these thoughts go back in my head. Like, Dan Simon said I'd be in the top 5 rounds. Like, if I came to Miami, and here it is. And so we're all excited, and I'm giving high fives, and Joe Bick calls, and he goes, or maybe I called him. I said, hey, Joe, just want to let you know, I'm sure you saw. He's like, yep. Actually, I think what his phrase is, he goes, it must be an awful happy time in the Knoedler household right now. I'm like, yeah, we just saw, we're just still waiting to hear about Jason. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, your brother got picked and 11 picks after you and by the Tigers.
That's just so incredible.
And I don't know if he said that on I can't remember if Jason said that same story on his podcast or story or not. But Joe Bick was actually the one. I remember it clear as day. He goes, the Knoedler household must be pretty excited right now. And I'm like, just got, I'm at 5th rounder. We're just waiting to hear on Jason. And he goes, our modem must have been so slow and there must have been such a delay that, he already was seeing it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Jason, you got picked in the by the Tigers in the 6th round.
So
and
you told him.
Certainly it caught up.
Wow.
And that's how I remember it.
Yeah.
And so
is this his jubilation? Is everyone
so
over the moon?
So at the time I think it was just the family. And so my dad, he's like, all right, let everybody know they can come over. Yeah. And before you know it, people are coming up. And my dad went and got several cases of some beer.
Yeah.
And
get after it.
We just had a great rest of the afternoon and night and hung out. And before you know it,
what a day.
Before you know it, we're negotiating contracts and trying to figure everything out. But
it wasn't long, right? You guys were.
Oh man, it was.
Tell me how that went. I'd love to hear how that went for you.
For the signing process.
Yeah, talking about money and.
Yeah, so Jason signed within like a week.
Yeah, he went quick.
He signed and was gone. I don't think there was any leverage really, other than he could go back for a senior year, but he was an All-American. And hindsight's 2020. I guess if he would have held out, he could have probably gotten some more money because some picks after him ended up getting some more money, I think. Yeah. But I held out probably for another 2 weeks.
Okay. He was gone then?
Yeah.
You're sitting around.
Yeah. Jason was already gone, and so Joe Bick told me, he's like, hey, I got a great relationship with Ned Coletti, who was the assistant GM of the Giants at the time, and Brian Sabian was the head guy, and so he was negotiating, just trying to get me as much as possible, and so they came at me with like $135,000, and Joe's like, well, he's not taking that. His brother got this, and 11 picks after him, and so. They end up coming to a number that I think was like 155 or 160,000. I can't remember the exact number.
I've got it. Baseball Cube has it listed as 152.
Okay, so right there, and so you get half of that right away, and then you get half of it after the first of the year, and so more money than.
What'd that feel like getting money like that, dude?
More money than I had ever had in my life.
What's
More money than our family had ever really had.
Yeah.
I mean, our parents always worked hard and made an average income, but. Just that's what I would have taken the year before.
Yeah.
And so we got it, and we put it away, and so when I signed, we negotiated there, and I signed, and I go straight to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Straight to San Francisco, and I get partnered our two first rounders, Noah Lowry and Brad Hennessy. I am with those two guys. So one just signed for $1.3 million. The other guy just signed for $1.1 million.
A little different than 152.
And so we get escorted into the stadium. We go down and we get to meet Dusty Baker, and he's in his office. And he's got incense burning, and he's eating some Cajun food, and we and he's just like, hey, welcome to San Francisco. Looking forward to having you guys play for me someday. Yeah. And he's like, well, enjoy the game tonight. And so they put us in the owner's box seats right by the dugout.
That's cool, man.
And we were watching the game, and at some point,
red carpet, buddy. At
some point, they throw us on the jumbotron, and they say, Brad Hennessy, Noah Lowry, Justin Knoedler, first, third, and fifth round draft picks of this year's draft, and the place starts clapping and
what's that feel like?
Going nuts. I mean, so we're just like, man, this is
pretty cool.
This is cool, man.
Yeah.
And so. So they roll out the red carpet for us. They show us a good time, taxi cabs. Actually, we all went through a physical too. They ran us all through a physical. The next morning, we're on a plane, and they ship us to Salem, Oregon.
Wow. And
in the Northwest League, which was the short Salem-Kaiser, Oregon. It was the Salem-Kaiser Volcanoes.
Yep.
That was our short league, short season A team. I believe the team had kind of already kicked off. Maybe a game or two, because we all signed a couple weeks later than most.
Yeah.
But so first things first, we got to find a place to live. All the host families were already taken by the other players that had signed sooner.
Right.
So we meet a couple guys that got a 2-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
And we're like, well, they got any other vacancies? No. So we're like, you mind if we just shack up with you guys? We can go get air mattresses. We're like, oh, yeah, bring it on. We ended up with 7 guys.
That's the minor leagues, isn't it?
In a 2-bedroom apartment, air mattresses.
Everywhere.
1 bathroom. Nobody had a car. So I'm not kidding you. We go. This is before we've even picked up a baseball.
Yeah.
We go to a junkyard, and we find this 1981 Ford Fairmount. It's got flames painted on the side. It looks like some kind of, drug car, or something. And we asked the guy, we're like, hey, does that thing start? They're like, oh, yeah, it starts, but, it's leaking oil, so you have to put some oil in it. So he fires it up. We go, what do you want for it? He goes, I'll take $200. We give this guy $200 for this hoopty car. and it's just a great story. So every day we literally drive this thing to the field. All 7 of us piled into this Ford Fairmount. And it literally dies like as we're pulling into the parking lot every day. But we went and bought a bunch of oil. We fill it up with oil. It cools off while we're at the game, and after the game it fires right up. And so it literally got us to and from the field every single day. And I think after we went and got insurance on it. I don't know if we ever titled it or licensed it or not. I really don't know.
Probably not legal to be on the
I
road.
don't know.
Who knows?
I don't
Got you in
remember.
the field, though.
It did. But here I am with a guy that just signed for $1 million, another guy that just signed for $1 million.
You guys are in
We bought a
hoopties.
$200 car.
Isn't that funny?
We were just idiots. And so
That's minor league life, though.
But you want to talk about an unbelievable team.
Okay.
So we had the 2 first rounders. We had Todd Linden did not come, but we had 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, 5th rounder. We had basically everybody signed.
Yeah.
We did have our 2nd rounder, Jesse Foppert. We had 2 2nd rounders that year. The pitching staff that we had, I ended up topping out at 96 that summer, I think. And I was just like a middle relief guy.
Wow.
So they had starters, the 2 first round guys. They had another guy from Arizona, Jesse Foppert. So we had our 5 starters, but then I was more of a piggyback. So I'd come in, they'd throw 4 or 5 innings. I'd come in and throw 2 innings, and then we had our closer guys, 2 or 3 innings at a time maybe. And so we went 52-25, I think, that year.
Wow. Oh.
I mean, it was a short season. We made it to the championship. My hand's still broken, but I've got it braced up, and I'm just pitching, and I'm throwing just as hard as everybody else. I mean, everybody on our team was throwing 95, 96.
Yeah, your stats were.
It was unreal.
28 innings pitched, 38 Ks, 9 walks, 1.26.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Shoving, dude.
And that's because I gave up. I think in my last inning pitched, I gave up a solo home run to Greg Dobbs. And ended up with a couple walks and one of those runs scored. So my ERA was under a 1 until my last outing. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I shoot straight fastballs. I would work on a slider in the bullpen on my off days.
Yeah.
And a little changeup, but I just threw
heat.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Here it comes. And these are all college hitters, a lot of them D1 hitters, and so I was just focusing on that. I would pitch 2 or 3 innings. And then I would have 2 or 3 days off. Yeah, and I would work out like a mad.
Working out.
Oh my God!
Were you hitting it all in this time? Were you trying to get?
No, I couldn't.
Your hand was
still broken, and I couldn't do anything in that regard. So we ended up winning the league. We Northwest League champions. We end up not a cool thing about this. But how this shook out. But so we make the playoffs, and at this time we're all kind of exhausted, but we're having so much fun because we're winning. We knew when we went to the ballpark that day we were going to win. Yeah. And so we make it to the championship. We're playing Boise, the Boise Cubs, Boise Idaho team, and it's the best of 5. I think it's the best of 5 series, and so we sweep. We win in 3 games. Yeah. We have. All of our flights are scheduled for 9/11 of 2001. Oh. To go home. So we're going to play all the games of the playoffs, 5 games. If it goes the full distance, all of our flights were scheduled for 9/11. Wow. We sweep in 3. We have a parade the following day, and then it's 9/10. And I'm like, I want to go home. Like, we're done with everything. I'm using this stupid, flame car. I got this room with 2 guys, and I got to wait here another day. All we really want to get home and see my friends and family. Yeah. And so I just go to the airport and say, hey, I got a flight tomorrow, but I need to go home today. They're like, okay, we'll put you on standby. So I'm just kind of hanging out. They finally go, Justin Knoedler, come to the thing. They got me a ticket to fly out on 9/10. Get home. Wake up that morning, 9/11. Wow. All flights are shut down. Players that had been scheduled to fly out, they don't make it home for like a week. Well, some of them rented cars and actually drove home, but because of the air traffic and everything else, they shut down all the flights. So I would have been stranded out there for at least a few more days because some of the teammates that I was talking to got stranded out there. That's crazy. So, lucky that I got home, and obviously, that terrible day, but I woke up to my mom actually was calling me. She goes, hey, you need to turn on the TV. And I'm like, what channel? And she goes, doesn't matter.
History just changed. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
doesn't matter.
So it was just wild. I was exhausted, but obviously watched TV the rest of that day and kind of learned all that. But other than that tidbit, it was a great first season. It was a great first season. So I've still got a problem, right? I've got my hands broken. Yeah. They have instructional league. So they say, hey, we need to get your hand fixed. Fly me to San Francisco. I have a hand surgery from the team surgeon.
Oh, it wasn't fixed yet? You
No.
hadn't had surgery?
No, I hadn't had surgery yet.
Oh, it was just splinted the whole time.
Still
broken.
it was still broken during the first season.
I didn't realize that.
Because it was like, if I have surgery, then am I still going to be able to play short season or anything? They wanted me to try pitching, so I just left it.
Interesting.
And so go to San Francisco. I have the surgery.
Yeah.
They fly me to Arizona for a little bit of rehab,
Yep.
and then they say, "Okay, we're just gonna send you home." I couldn't really do any instructs.
I remember that winter you had all those different colored putties, and you were squeezing them all the time and getting your hands strong again.
You know what? I take that back. I did go to instructional league.
Okay.
I did go to instructional league. Very, very few innings down there. Worked on a breaking pitch. After instructional league, then I flew to San Francisco and had the surgery, and they sent me home.
Okay.
So it was just kind of get it done. So I'm at home rehabbing. Everything's good. Come December, I'm completely healthy. Dick Tidrow calls me, and he goes, "What do you want to do?"
Oh, this is great.
And I'm like, "What do you want me to do?" And he goes, "Well, obviously you got a great arm. You had a lot of success this year, but we have absolutely no catching." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Well," he goes, "You saw who you threw to." He goes, "You got the two guys there." He goes, "Those guys aren't prospects. They're not in our future."
Suspects.
Yeah, and he goes, "I think if you caught, you could be in the big leagues in 2 to 3 years." And I said,
"It's a powerful thing to hear."
He goes, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well," I was like, "To be honest with you, Dick, I like to play every day. Like that's what I was used to. I would just pitch because I was hurt."
Right.
And he goes, "Okay, when you come to spring training, you're a catcher."
Man, just like that.
Yep.
Just like that.
And so I go to spring training, minor league spring training, which is a freaking madhouse. People everywhere, hundreds and hundreds of players.
Your first spring training.
First spring training.
Sure.
And it's put me up in a Days Inn hotel right next to Fashion Square Mall. That was awesome. Fashion Square Mall is the best mall ever.
Okay.
It's just huge, but Scottsdale's unbelievable. But from the baseball standpoint, San Francisco had a very old and outdated minor league camp. Matter of fact, their big league camp was outdated too, but they were in the process of kind of revamping everything.
Okay.
So now it's beautiful. It's a brand new complex. But so I'm a catcher, and I'm just kind of going through the spiel now. That's my first pro taste at catching, and so I'm just catching bullpen after bullpen after bullpen after bullpen, and just catching and throwing and showing off my arm and taking batting practice, and you got a few minor league games, and before you know it, they're releasing rosters. And they say, okay, you're going to go to low A. You're going to go to Hagerstown, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And that's where I end up, Hagerstown, Maryland.
League, yep.
Sally League, yeah. And it's very interesting place.
Let's hear about it. I'd love to hear about your experience there. All of it, travel, living conditions, the fans, the grind of it.
Yeah, I enjoyed every bit of it. Uh-huh. Don't get me wrong. But I would not really want to go back to Hagerstown, Maryland.
For what reason?
The stadium was outdated.
Yeah.
I think April actually played in Hagerstown too. Mm-hmm. I remember talking to him about it. But just kind of an older stadium, not a lot of fans. But I was with some great guys. Obviously, we had just come off that championship team with the Northwest League, so they kept a lot of us together. Yeah. So we had a lot of the same guys. So there was already a good team camaraderie there. It's cold. We ended up with 4 or 5 guys in another 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, but it wasn't as bad as the Salem apartment. But and we got a minivan. We rented a minivan.
There you go. Upgrading.
I drove the minivan every day to and from the stadium, and so I was kind of like the soccer dad. That was one of my nicknames that I ended up getting was Dad. There's Dad driving the minivan. That one. The year before everybody called me Winky, because they said I look like Chris Winky.
Okay,
and,
I can see that again.
Yeah, and it's the stupid names that I got playing. You name it.
That's how the game is.
And so in Hagerstown, I was nicknamed Dad. So I'm driving the soccer van to and from the field every day. I'm catching 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Didn't think I was doing that great, but before you know it, the All-Star roster comes out, and I was named an All-Star.
Awesome.
I was South Atlantic League All-Star.
Some validation there.
And so the league wasn't loaded with a bunch of catchers. I might have been hitting 250.
Yeah. For the season, you hit 257, 5 dings, 16 doubles, 2 triples, 33 RBIs.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not. I mean, and how many at bats did it say? You have that on there?
I got 8.
I would imagine it was probably 300 to 400 at bats.
I got it here. 280 at bats.
Okay, so it wasn't a ton of at bats. Usually they try to get you 400 or 500 at bats a year, but as a catcher, and split in time. So I guess a respectable year.
Absolutely
respectable year.
It's not falling on your face or anything.
But still catching and throwing like crazy. I mean, I remember Mike Ramsey was my manager there, and Mike Ramsey actually played here in Springfield for the Springfield Cardinals, and he was getting my pop times on guys that were stealing in the games. And I remember going back to the dugout, and he goes, "Look at this," and he goes, and it was 179 on my pop time, and I'm like, you must have been a little fast. He goes, "No, I got it on the last one too."
Man.
And I said, I was like, "Well, that's cool, man." But so I think that's what kind of got me recognized, for the All-Star was my catching ability throughout the league. But so respectable year. I don't think we had a very good team. We did not make the playoffs that year. The All-Star experience was great. It was at Lakewood, New Jersey. They had just built this brand new stadium, right in where the riverfront or the waterfront there is in New Jersey. And Ryan Howard was on that team, on the All-Star team, so I hung out with him. Yeah. But my favorite story about that All-Star game, because I think I caught 2 innings and got 1 at bat and don't even remember what I did. But part of the reception when you got to the hotel was up on the top floor of the hotel. They had the Coors Light reception. So you go up there and have a beer, and they had hors d'oeuvres out there and whatever. And I walk in there, and who's sitting there is Joe West.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, what the heck is Joe West doing here? Well, come to find out, he's getting inducted as part of the All-Star ceremonies. He's getting inducted into the South Atlantic Hall of Fame, South Atlantic League Hall of Fame. So I'm like, what the hell? I'm gonna grab a beer and I'm just gonna ask Joe West some stories. Yeah. I was like, Joe West, I said, what can you tell me about the time you threw out Andre Dawson? I was saying Andre Dawson, because again, I grew up a Cub fan. I remember this. It was like, I don't know if it was 1986 or. But Andre Dawson got thrown out of a game and threw every single bat in the dugout onto the field.
That's right. I've seen that clip.
It was only 2 games that Andre Dawson ever got thrown out in his life.
Yeah, he's pretty mild-mannered.
And Joe West is telling me, yeah. He goes, we had delay of the game. People were throwing stuff on the field. He goes, I gave him every chance to stay in that game. I even said, I may have missed that call, but do you want to stay in the game or not? And he basically, told him to F off or whatever. And
you're a sea sucker.
So he runs him, and Andre Dawson. I mean, it caused like a 30-minute delay. Well, fast forward to about 3 or 4 months ago, Andre Dawson came to Springfield. Andre Dawson came to Springfield this past summer.
Yeah. For
the camp, the MLB Players Alumni Camp that they had here in town.
Okay.
And so I went and worked the camp, and I said, and I got to take Andre Dawson to the field. He drove in my truck with me one-on-one.
That's cool.
He signed some balls for me.
Wow.
But I said, Andre, I got to ask you a question. I said, do you remember when Joe West threw you out of the game? And he said, he goes, well, of course I do. He goes, only got ejected twice in my whole life. And I said, I got to tell you, I was like, I asked Joe West the same question because I grew up a huge fan, Cub fan, and you were one of my favorite players. And I used to imitate your stance all the time. I said, Joe West claims that he gave you a chance to stay in the game, but you didn't take it. He goes, he did. He did, and I didn't take it. And he goes, I'll give you a guess who threw me out my other time. I said, what umpire? And I said, Angel Hernandez. Angel Hernandez.
Gotta be right.
And it was. I think he said it was the last game of his career.
Really?
The last game of his career. So.
Oh man! For those of you who don't know, both Joe West and Angel Hernandez are known as umpires that will throw you out of the game pretty quick. Well, quick trigger, especially Angel Hernandez.
Well, Angel Hernandez, not to get any libel or defamation here, but he's known as a terrible umpire.
He is.
I mean,
always ranked the lowest.
Always controversy.
Yep.
He's absolutely brutal.
It's the Angel Hernandez show.
But Joe West was a really good umpire.
Yeah.
He really was. So it was a Joe West show
Cowboy
too.
Joe West.
Yeah, and there's a reason he umpired for 50 years.
Right.
But he was a great guy. He told stories about his he's a musician and he plays.
You got band.
Yeah, and so we got to talking, but I just thought that
cool.
was a cool
That's a
story.
great story.
It's a cool story. Yeah,
Dude, I live for that on these podcasts. Those are amazing stories. Please.
So, yeah, but old Joe West, that was my Sally League story. But other than that, the year was somewhat uneventful. It's a development year, low A. You know, they're running you out there. They told me you're going to catch 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, and that's what I did all year long. Some cool places to play. Lakewood, New Jersey was cool. Hagerstown, not so much. Savannah, Georgia, where the bananas are down there now, but at the time they were called the Savannah Sand Gnats.
Yep, I remember that.
Unbelievably hottest place I've ever played. I remember running to first base after catching a few innings. I'm so soaking wet with sweat that I've got my spikes are physically. It looked like I just jumped in a pool, and I've got sweat just kind of splashing me in the face from my shoes. It was disgusting, and gnats are sticking to me, and I'm never going back to Savannah, Georgia.
So, looking at these stats, hearing how you're speaking about this, not the greatest year, but you certainly proved that you belong, that you're a pro, that you're in the system.
Catcher that hits 250, and I don't know how many strikeouts I had, so I don't know what kind of ratio I had there, but I'm holding my own. I'm certainly
that's a great way to put it. Holding your own.
Certainly holding my own.
Holding your own.
I'm not hitting 200. I'm 1 for 4.
And take into consideration that you took a whole year off from any offensive,
true.
seeing pitches and whatnot. So this is I think it's very promising. So going into that off season, you're going to get to train like you probably want to, a little differently. You can go a little. Yeah,
went to instructional league. Went back to instructional league this year as a catcher.
Right.
So again, catching a lot of guys. They're working on pitches. I'm working on swings. I didn't need a ton of work defensively. I mean, I could. You're always trying to soften your hands receiving. Throwing was never something I actually had to work on. I mean, it was just it came naturally. I could throw. It didn't need to waste work on that. It was let's figure out the bat a little more. Use all fields, and learn how to work your pitching staff.
Yep. So we're at the off season, and this is a cool moment I think because this is when I really got to watch you guys and see you guys, and your off seasons were awesome. You were. You covered every aspect of what you should cover: the stretching, the strength training, the baseball stuff, the throwing, the hitting. You guys got your work in. You were awesome with that. So I've got some cool clips here. And O'Malley was part of that. Jason was part of that. At times I was a part of that. So I've got a couple clips here. I got one from O'Malley, one from Frank the Tank, and one from Dan Ort, all about kind of your off season, your work ethic stuff. So please jump in and say something after each clip if you'd like to.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
Here we go. O'Malley.
Some of the other memories that I had at Lincoln Land and with the K team and was when we both got a chance to play, or all of us got a chance to play professionally in the off seasons. We would always come home to Springfield, and Bull and Coach Krasick always made that we were so welcomed to come out there and work hard in the off season with the Lincoln Land team or on our own. And we had the facilities. Yeah. And like I said earlier, just being friends and then going out there and having each other to push each other and work out together and work on our, whether it was me throwing BP to those guys, being a pitcher then, throwing some live BP to those guys, having that Justin there, he was my personal bullpen catcher in the off season.
Yeah.
I mean, to have them guys through that experience, I would say there's no question about it. It made me a better person and a better, have a better, longer career just to have that kind of brotherhood and workout in the off season.
I mean, he hit a lot of solid points there, man. I mean, you can't work out by yourself, but having the accountability, our relationship just grew much stronger through that. Yeah. I mean, we're all kind of going through the same journey, and so we're all kind of trying to launch our professional careers, and to be able to to go to the gym every day and have your brother and you're one of your best buddies from college, and you're all trying to live that. And then you came along, and we had some other guys that would kind of filter in and out too from time to time. And so
it's a cool environment.
Yeah, and we made it fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's no fun working out by yourself. So we would do all our calisthenics and throw a football, and
that was the best, running routes.
Yeah, we would find a way, and then we'd play a little basketball without trying to roll our ankles or get hurt or something.
Right.
And then we were very blessed, obviously, to be able to go out to Lincoln Land and have a space that we didn't have to pay for, and where we were welcome. And then we've obviously talked a lot about on the podcast with the other guys about Tony Kolovik's place and Kolovik's Auto Body.
Gosh, shout out to Tony.
Being able to get up there and just have open access to get your hitting in, to get your bullpens in, and he certainly paid that forward somehow. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to. Yeah. I always say, I will do anything for Tony Kolovic.
As would I.
If he needed something, I'd tell Brent. I'm like, man, as much as your dad let me use the, his shop. I said, I've got this clubhouse now, so I was like, I kind of feel like I owe it to Tony Kolovic's grandkids to get in there.
He asked for nothing.
He asked for nothing. And he every once in a while, he had some. Well, he had some teams that we helped, so we would go work with, Brent and Nick's teams, and do a few things there. But I mean, I think he just enjoyed baseball, and he loved giving back, and so I still run into Tony all the time, because our kids are running together. His grandkids are, and Brent and I become pretty good buddies. We live in the neighborhood, so
same neighborhood.
he. Unbelievable guy. But that off season really is what kicked it off. We started. I think that's the off season we probably started working out with Chad at Body Symmetry. Yep. You want to talk about a guy that really, really catapulted my career from just not only am I going to work out, but I'm going to work out from a functional standpoint.
Right. Yeah.
More flexible. And he even asked me, like, what do you need to get better at? I was like, well, I need to be a little bit more flexible. I need endurance strength. I lost a lot of weight during the season, so I needed to focus on my nutrition. Catching a little more power hitting. Even though power was never an issue, but now I'm facing, I'm bigger ballparks probably, and I'm facing tougher pitching. So, just functional strength, sport specific strength. We've talked a lot about
Chad's
that.
Amazing.
The best dude in the world. Another guy that never asked for anything.
Seriously,
I think he welcomed the challenge.
Yeah.
He appreciated that we put our trust in him. And so, again, I can't pay Chad enough or thank him enough for everything that he did. And then
later he brought you back to train people at Body Symmetry for years after your pro career was done, and gave you a home there too.
Well, it gave me an opportunity, and he always told me that you always have a home here, and so
one of my favorite people.
Absolutely, and so I thought that's what I was supposed to do when I got done playing, but we'll touch more on that later, but. And it was a grind. I appreciate you saying the things you said earlier. I don't know how I did it for as long as I did.
Dude, I don't. It exhausted me.
To be honest, but no, that off season kind of catapulted me. And I went to spring training a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, a little bit more confident. I was more flexible, healthy. And that's the other thing. Not only just trying to get bigger, faster, stronger, you're trying to just prevent injury.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so having all that expertise in injury prevention, just opened my mind to a whole nother way to work out.
And it's cool that you got to go to Chad, that he could do all of it. He was knowledgeable in every aspect that you just mentioned. Sometimes you might have to go to a specialist for this or that, but Chad was a one-stop shop. He was really knowledgeable, and like you said, challenged himself to get better in all those areas for you guys.
Yeah.
So
he cared, and it
cared big time.
and it came back to him. So because he trained me and Ryan and Jason, once the other players started coming through, and you're working out with him, Ryan Aper and Yokesh, and he's
tons of college guys.
There's been a ton of other colleges. So it still didn't pay him back for all the time he spent with us, but it certainly got him some other clientele, 100%. To help catapult, more of the clientele that he really likes to train.
It's fun for him.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about Chad is he could train a Justin Knoedler, and then he could also train your grandma.
Oh yeah, no,
and
he
does.
Good as that. He does. He's very diverse, but and he puts his heart and soul into each one. I can tell 100%, you that.
100%. So. All right, we're on now. That was I love that we got to give thanks to him there. Frank the Tank. This was a clip that I was excited about playing earlier. This is profound. Here we go.
The biggest thing I saw, though, it was really when he was playing pro ball, and I was playing pro ball, and we were there for the Lincoln Land in the wintertime.
Yep.
And I walk into the gym after I've been doing all these exercise, all the stuff that the team, the Mets had, like the workout program, and I'm like, man, I'm doing really good. I'm following this program, and I go into the gym and I see it was O'Malley and Jason and Justin, and they're like squat lunging the bar with like 225 on it across the gym, and I'm like, what the heck are you guys doing? And I'm like, I'm doing all my workouts in there, and Justin's like, if you just do what they do, you're never going to be better than anybody else. You got to do more than what they tell you to do to be the best you can be. I mean,
that's
so
cool.
I started at that point. I started working out with them and doing some of that stuff too. And I mean, they were just, I was dead. I'm like, how you guys even been doing this? But
they were animals.
You can see, you can see his build, man. I mean, obviously his legs were
absolutely,
huge.
Well, they've certainly gotten better with some of those programmings that they give these players in the off season. I think that's definitely evolved from when we were there. Yeah. But that booklet that they used to give us was, I mean, I might as well just use that in the bathroom.
For those of you that don't know, every pro club will send the minor league guys, pro guys home with a very cookie cutter off season workout program, and it's better than nothing, sure.
Yeah.
But some guys, need to be tailored to what they need, not just.
Exactly, and not everybody can go home and and have the luxury of being blessed to have a Chad Marshak 100%. In your life, and and so or can afford it, right. To go and hire a personal trainer. Sure. So they got to give you something, a baseline to use, but it certainly has gotten a lot better. Obviously with the internet and everything else, you've got ways to do it. But yeah, those books, I've probably still got some at home, and I look through them and I'm like, man, this is bad. It's bad. But it's the way things were back then.
It was,
back then. We're so old now.
And lastly, I've got Dan Ortmeyer, former big leaguer. You guys were teammates for parts of 7 seasons. So
I can't wait to hear his voice, man.
Here we go. Danny Ort on maximizing through work.
We both, but I think specifically, Justin, he was blessed with a lot of God-given ability, but he maximized it through work. I mean, just once again, never satisfied. I know Jason as well. Didn't know him as a player, but knew him kind of after. And yeah, I mean, those guys, they're a different breed, man. Justin specifically, I mean, he just, never stopped. Days off were not days off, for him at that time, just always working on something, trying to get to the next level, which, whatever that may be for him, obviously we got to the big leagues, and so we were at, one of the top levels, and he's still working. So, just maximizing what he could do each and every day, that was him.
He was right there with me because, Orty actually, he's a firefighter now, but he's actually running an academy down in the Fort Worth area too. And so, but Ortmeyer and I didn't play with each other till 2003, and the year after this off season, he got drafted I got drafted in 01. He got drafted in 02, and we started to become friends in 03, and even like for the first part of the year, we're kind of maybe just filling each other out, but then all of a sudden, then we become pretty close.
Yeah,
and then before you know it, we're living with each other, and and then the rest is history. We were in each other's weddings and et cetera. But Orty and I, man, like if that's the one guy that I'd never want to lose contact with, and again, we don't talk that often, but when we do, we pick right back up. Oh my God, it's. What a good dude. I loved his wife. His wife, at the time she'd come in and stay, and Ann and I started dating a little bit after them. They were high school sweethearts. But got to be with them. They bring their dogs. God, it was just an amazing time. We'll probably get into more of that. But, Orty was a good dude and man of faith, and kept me grounded at times. Just a brother from another mother, man.
Love it.
So
I had a great chat with him. It was really cool. So now we're getting into our 3rd year here. You've been through an off season here. We're gonna end up in San Jose, High A, California League.
San Jose.
Yeah.
One of my favorite years probably of playing. had a pretty strong year in San Jose.
101 games, 354 at bats, 25 doubles, 3 triples, 10 bombs, 257. Strong year.
Yeah. So power numbers picked up a little bit there. I think I actually was leading off
really
for the first part of that year. I don't know if it was like the Jason Kendall thing or something. I don't know.
Got a fast catcher.
And it wasn't every game, but there were times where I'm warming up the pitcher because that was part of my routine, man. I wanted to warm up the starting pitcher. I didn't want anybody else warming him up.
Yeah.
I wanted to take him through his whole in the outfield warm up through the bullpen. But if I was leading off, man, I was like, I gotta go. And so stole a few bases that year. I don't know how many, but by the time I got halfway through that season, I was starting to slow down.
13, buddy.
I was getting tired.
Yeah.
I was getting tired.
That's first real grindy long season for you.
Yeah, because I could run and I wasn't afraid to run.
Right.
But man, when you're squatting and then you're on first base, you feel like you're in quicksand sometimes.
By the end of that year, feeling pretty run down.
And so and that was the first time I had ever experienced staying with the host family.
How was that?
So it was great. Great family, the Tomasello family. Gary and Kathy Tomasello, they actually had one daughter. She was basically gone for the summer. She'd come visit every once in a while. So they had her car. I think they lived in a gated community, very nice house, kind of up on a bluff. Everything in San Jose is expensive.
Yeah.
But I think they charged me $100 a month.
Okay.
$100 a month. In San Jose, you're gonna pay $1,500 all day for an apartment, if not more, which would be cheap now. But so it was a great family. Matter of fact, he ran the grounds. He was a groundskeeper at the one of the amusement parks. I'm not sure which Paramount Pictures amusement park there in the area. And so we got some free passes to go to that on off days. And so San Jose, like I said, it was one of my favorite places. The weather was great. California League, you're up and down the California. You're playing in all kinds of kind of desert areas and stuff like that. Ball flies.
This is known as a hitters league.
Hitters league. Yeah.
People hit bombs in this. This is when you're going to have your highest bomb total in the minors.
Inland Empire, Visalia, San Jose, Modesto. Gosh, I'm trying to think of the one where the wind was always blowing out like 40 miles an hour. I want to say it was Inland Empire, but I don't think that was it. There was another one. Lancaster.
Yeah.
Lancaster, California. Wind blowing straight out to left field. Every game, 40 miles an hour. Guys that would hit 20, 30 home runs every year in their sleep. That's the farthest ball I've ever hit. I mean, I hit a line drive that just never stopped. But fun league. Travel wasn't too bad. The best thing about San Jose, this was unbelievable on-field experience. Well, they always had the barrel batter or the beer batter.
Okay.
So every game they'd pick one of the guys from the other team, and if he struck out, beers were 50 cents or free or something for that half inning.
Yeah.
And so the whole crowd. I mean, we drew probably 4,000 to 5,000 fans a game.
Wow.
So we got a good crowd.
Yeah.
And so they would go nuts for the beer batter. But my favorite on-field promotion, they would bring out this big old FedEx truck or bread truck or utility truck, and they'd wheel it out right in front of our dugout, and they'd put out this big blanket, and they'd pick 2 contestants from the stands, and they each got to pick a position player to try to throw a ball to smash the headlight out. And it was called Smash for Cash. And so they marked the truck was kind of in line with first base. It was a 90-foot throw. And the person they picked from the stands either could throw it themselves, and they got 2 throws, or they could have the player throw 1 ball to try to break it.
Okay.
Well, and the deal was I think you won $50 or $100 if you broke the light.
Uh-huh.
But if the player threw it, the player and the person got to split the money.
Okay.
And there was no go ahead and keep it. I mean, they literally would give her $50 and they'd give us $50. People picked me all the time.
Always. You gotta pick
and
JU.
Julio Cordito, the third baseman. We made so much money that summer smashing
Doubled your salary.
those headlights out. It was unfreaking real because pitchers weren't allowed to do it. For one, they didn't want anybody hurting themselves. Yeah. But so I'd go out there. I was like, give me that ball.
It became common knowledge that JU was the guy to pick.
Oh my God, yeah. It was never a question. It was me and Julio Cordito. They never picked anybody else.
That's terrific.
And so I'd go back to my locker and I'd have $50 sitting there.
Yeah.
And so that was a great. I tried to get the horseshoes to do that. The old smash for cash.
Oh, that's a great idea.
But San Jose was great. San Jose was also great. So Jack Lynn was our manager, older school guy. FP Santangelo was our hitting coach, and FP had wasn't a mechanical guy. I don't think you have to be a mechanical guy. He was more of an approach guy.
Okay.
And so there were still a lot of things that I learned from him that I would still teach today about just kind of looking for a certain spot in the zone. You don't have to cover the whole zone every pitch. Go to your spot, your hot zone, wherever that
100%.
is. One ball off location.
Yes.
And he had diagrams for us, and he would make us, and it really helped me out. I mean, I had a pretty good offensive year that year. So
we're gonna get to it at some point. You want to wait a little bit, or like it always fascinated me, and I'm glad we're getting to this. Like every off season, it seemed like you would come back with like a different philosophy or something slightly different, based on the hitting coach that you had been working with that year. And it didn't seem like there was a lot of, streamline or within the organization. It wasn't one philosophy. It was who the hitting coach you were with that year.
Yeah.
You tell me.
So Hagerstown, I don't remember much about hitting mechanics at all.
Okay.
I think it was like baptism by fire,
Yeah.
But I do remember San Jose is when offensively I started to kind of figure things out a little bit. It was FP Santangelo, kind of just – he worked with everybody on the team, and we had a team approach, and so we would work through that. But nothing outside the norm. It was just okay. This is what you need to be thinking mentally. This is your approach.
Yeah.
And so when I got into the big leagues and started working with the big league coaches, there was a little bit of conflict there with
Dan Ortmeyer said this exact same thing.
Did he?
I kind of asked him about it. He was like, yeah, like some years it was like there was some funky stuff they were telling you, or there was too many voices sometimes. You're like, oh, I want to listen to this former big leaguer and this one and this one.
Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen, man.
He said that exact phrase.
Yep. It's true. It's true. And so at the end of the day, and I remember talking to Aper about this when he was going through his grind in the minor leagues. I'm like, man, it's your career. It's your career, man, and you know how to hit. You knocked the cover off the ball for 2 years at Lincoln Land. The pitching wasn't what it is down there, but you got to stick with what you know, man.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until a few years later that that bell finally clicked for me, and unfortunately, I think it was just a little bit too late for the Giants organization. But FP was great. We got through the San Jose year, and the Giants had to make a decision on whether they wanted to put me on the 40-man.
Yeah.
And so, again, I was not expecting it. It's just like the draft. I was like, I had a decent year. They gotta protect me to a point where they can put me on the AAA roster and protect me.
Right.
But they put me on the 40-man.
Yeah.
I get a call and they say, you're going to the 40-man.
This is your fourth year. The majority of the year you're in Double-A.
Yeah.
With Norwich Navigators, 115 games, 409 at bats, 9 bombs, 28 doubles, 274. Really strong year. And from what I think I know, I didn't play in Double-A, but that's kind of like a major moment in minor leagues where the suspects and the prospects get kind of separated. And Double-A is some pretty talented guys.
A lot of talent in Double-A, a lot of prospects in Double-A.
Yeah.
There's a lot more consistency in Double-A. You still have a fireballer that may not know where the ball's going, but you also have some journeymen that are still holding on down there.
Yeah.
Fighting for their chance. It's just their spot.
And that eventually became you.
Yeah. And so Norwich was an okay place to play. It's at this older stadium up on a hill. I always wonder, like, why were the Giants in Hagerstown, Maryland, and Norwich, Connecticut when they're all the way on the West Coast? So I was West Coast, East Coast, West Coast. Now I'm back on the East Coast. I mean, I'm getting to see the country whether I like it or not.
Absolutely,
and so,
one of the beautiful things about the game.
So the Eastern League, cold, early.
Yep.
I remember the fact that I hit 274. I don't remember getting a hit for the first 2 months. So, but I do remember catching absolute fire at the end of the year.
Okay.
I think I probably jumped my average 30 points in the last month. Yeah, just
right time to do it. I mean,
just anything. It was. I remember the other catcher, Chris Curry. He goes. Is the ball looking like a beach ball right now? Because like everything you hit finds a hole, and it was just. But so I remember I wasn't playing one day, and I'm standing in the outfield shagging fly balls with Carlos Valderrama, who was on the 40-man roster, and he had been up for a couple cups of coffee. And again, I'm on the 40-man roster, so anything's possible. And I got a couple stories about this. We got to come back to this couple stories, but
let's go right now.
I'm talking to Carlos Valderrama, and he goes, Justin, you're gonna get called up this year. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? That guy's Trey Lunsford's in AAA. He's on the 40-man too. Right. Like, they're in a playoff race. Like, I'm not getting called up. He goes, you're gonna get called up. And I said, we'll see. And sure as hell, it happens. And I'll let you know how it happens. But there's a couple other funny stories I want to tell about this.
Let's go.
So Shane Turner was my manager. Shane Turner, he ended up being my manager in AAA too. I played for him for 3 or 4 years, it seemed like. And so Shane was a great manager, kind of let you do your thing, expected you to show up, do your job. But he'd also kind of, play around the clubhouse and get to know you a little bit. Yeah. But he never wanted to get to know you too well because he knew it was a business, and he knew he was going to have to either cut you one day or
some people create that kind of
and
distance
so,
between themselves.
But one day we threw our hats out on the field and played like crap. I mean, it was awful. And he was like, this is bad. I'm going to light a fire under their ass. He comes in and he's trying not to laugh, but he's just lighting us up. Yeah. He's like, you can't catch the ball, and you don't run hard, and you're terrible in the outfield. Nice routes, and he goes, if you guys ever play like this again, he goes, I'm quitting. And he takes his fist and he just blows up the ping pong table. I mean, just shatters it. Like, and I was like, did he really just freaking like karate chop the ping pong table? Like, I'm like, I can't believe this, man. Like we're in pro ball here. Like, this is, and anyway, he told us later. He goes, yeah, he was having a bad day.
Sorry, guys.
But anyway, one of my other fondest memories about Norwich, we had a guy on the team named Darren McMains. I got drafted with Darren McMains. Darren McMains was the funny guy on the team, was the guy to keep everybody loose, but he was also the guy that played second base and almost got called to the big leagues just because he didn't make an error. Really? I mean, if that ball touched his glove, it was going in the glove, and he was going to throw it to first base. And he didn't have a great arm, but he could turn a double play. He was the Bo Hart. I mean, the guy. Yeah. The guy could just make the plays and get the job done. He's always on his belly. But anyway, so he liked to just do jokes. After a game, we'd win. So anytime we got a new player on the team that came to the team, called up, sent down, whatever, we would haze them. Yeah. And it didn't matter who they were. And so we had 2 guys that would go into the shower and just get, undressed. Yeah. And Derek McMains would put on this referee jersey, and it was a basketball referee jersey, and he had a referee whistle. And when nobody was expecting it, he would just kind of go in the middle of the room and blow the whistle, and everybody on the team knew what to do. We all just started chanting defense, defense, and all of a sudden, the 2 naked guys would come run out of the room, and Derek McMains would take the basketball and he'd throw it to the new guy, and the 2 naked guys would start playing defense on the new guy with the basketball. Oh no! And so the whole time we're just going defense, and the new guy can't get away. I mean, and they're playing defense. And so all of a sudden they try to run away, and one of them would take a charge, and Derek McMains would come right up and be like, charge. So needless to say, we couldn't wait to get a new guy on the team. Like, it was just the funniest like little quirk that we had on that team.
Would it be like, all right, we're gonna do it? They're here?
Oh no! You just knew. You just knew, and it was always the same 2 guys that were gonna get naked and play the defense.
Who comes up with something like that?
Derek McMains. And so he had it in his locker. He had the basketball. He had the jersey. And so he would always say, "Hey, new guys, we're gonna do it." And so they'd go. He'd just give them a thumbs up, and nobody else knew what was going on. I never knew when it was gonna happen. Oh my God. He'd blow that whistle, and everybody just be like, "Here we go."
Were you ever one of the guys in the shower?
No,
You
it
never
was
one of
always,
the
no, it was,
defenders?
no, it was always the same two guys.
Oh, okay.
It was always
All
the same guys that they love to do it. Every very proud to be butt naked,
Yep.
trying to tackle somebody. But
Man.
so it was just classic.
If that is not minor league baseball locker room, I don't know what is. I love it. That's the good stuff.
We always went in San Jose. We had a Japanese trainer who would always help us rouse the new guy. Be like, hey man, if we knew that they were gullible, be like, hey man, you got to go in and get the prostate checked out, man. That's one of the things they got to do. So Katsu was our trainer.
You play along?
Oh yeah, he'd get the glove on. He'd get the Abilene.
Guys all nervous, like, oh gosh.
He'd wait till they drop down, and then. But he obviously never would go that far. But it was just it was great.
Dude, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, Norwich was where it all happened, man. It was a fun year. There was nothing to do in Norwich. It was baseball.
That can be a good thing.
Me, Ortmeyer, and Tyler Von Schell.
Yeah.
First baseman, hit bombs. We all lived together in a two bedroom apartment. And
Ort said you guys played a lot of Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods guys.
Played that. In Norwich there wasn't a whole lot to do. They had the two casinos. They had Foxwoods Casino and the Mohegan Sun. Yeah. And there's a lot of stories from Norwich that I can't tell on air.
That's okay. Some things are for the locker room and they stay there.
But that was just a fun season, and it obviously all finished with that magic phone call, man.
Let's go.
So,
come on. Right here, September call up.
We are in Bowie. We're in
like?
Bowie. We're in Bowie, Maryland. It's the last series of the year, and we've got our last game is it's the night before our last game. I'm not in my hotel room. Yeah. I'm playing cards in another room, and so but Orty's in the room. Orty was my roommate.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I'm getting a call on my cell phone, and he goes, "Hey man, where you at?" And I'm like, well, "I'm just over here in the room, whatever, talking to the guys." And he goes, "Shane's looking for you, Shane Turner, my manager."
Yeah. And
I said, "Okay." So I go back to the room. I call Shane's room, and he goes, "Where the hell have you been?" He goes, "Get your ass down to my room right now." I said, "Okay, I'll be down in a minute." Yeah. And I'm like,
and you're not thinking call up.
No,
you're in double A.
Like, I'm really not. I'm like, really? He's going to do room checks, the last game of the season, yeah. And I'm again completely oblivious.
Right.
This is the story of my life, man. Like, I didn't think I was going to get drafted. I really didn't,
Yeah.
And so I knock on the door, and they open it up, and there's Shane Turner, Bob Stanley, our pitching coach, and Roger LaFrancois, and they hand me a beer, and they say, "Congratulations, man! You're going to the big leagues."
Man.
And I'm like, "No way!" I was like, "You guys are pulling my chain, man." And they go, "Yep." They said, "Congratulations on a good year." He goes, "I got to tell you one thing though. You can't tell anybody." They said, "You can't." Like,
that's not fair. That's cruel.
They said you cannot tell a soul because take it from us. It could change in a minute.
For how long?
They could change their mind. Well, we still had a game to play the next day.
Okay.
And they go, "You're not going to be in the lineup tomorrow, but you need to keep it quiet because they could make a trade. The Giants are in a playoff push.
Right.
They can make a trade. Something can happen, and they could say, you know what, we don't have room now to call them up."
Right.
Back then, it was a 40-man roster. They could call up all 40. Now they've got rules. You can only call up 28 at a time.
Yeah.
AAA goes longer. So here I am, just like, okay, man, I can't tell anybody. Like, I literally go to the field the next day. My roommate doesn't know. Nobody knows.
I mean,
Orty,
did you sleep that night?
Orty probably did know.
Yeah.
He probably knew, but he's like, all right, we'll keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's kind of wondering, Justin's not in the lineup.
Right,
Justin's not in the lineup. So, I knew I was going, and I didn't have any suits, any clothes, anything. And they're like, the plan is for you to meet the team in Colorado. So I actually got up early that next day, and I went to Men's Warehouse.
Really?
Yeah. I went to Men's Warehouse, bought a couple suits.
Hook me up.
And and I just took him back to the hotel room, and just wanted to prepare myself. And so after the game, Shane called everybody together and said, "Hey, just want to let everybody know, Justin's going to the big leagues tomorrow, and everybody, congratulated me and high-fived me, and so then I, started calling everybody. It was official, I was going, and so yeah, the emotions are insane, man. Just insane, So the first call I made was to Jay,
of course,
and I'd be lying if I say I didn't. I called him the night before. I did tell him, and so.
Thank you for being honest, Justin.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and well, yeah, like not it matters now, but so I called him and told him, and
he said he didn't sleep after that.
The support that he gave me, man, and he's just because he's trying to live the same thing too, right? I mean, and
sure.
So is O'Malley and all the guys, and so I couldn't have felt more love and support from him on
awesome.
that, and it was just cool, and so you just don't. It just doesn't hit you. It just doesn't hit you like you think it will.
Not real.
And you're just like, all right, I'm going to big leagues. Like that's what's really happening. Like it's just crazy, and you don't. All these thoughts are going through your mind, but none of them are sticking. And so obviously, and then I call mom and dad, and I tell them, and Dad's like, "Oh, that's great!" He was super excited. I don't think he realized he was super proud. Like my mom said, like biggest fan, wouldn't miss a game. But I don't think any of us really realized the magnitude in the moment.
Yeah.
And so, but then you get on that plane, you show up to Colorado, you make your way to the field, and you walk in, and there's your locker, and there's your jersey. And everybody's coming up to you and welcoming you to the big leagues. And you suit up for the first time, and you head out to the field, and you listen to your first national anthem, and you just can't help but kind of tear up. You're like you're here, and then
made it.
Then you head out to the bullpen, and you gear up, and you're catching bullpens, and you're warming guys up, and
I'm getting chills right now.
And it's just I'll never forget it. And Joel Namovich was actually in Colorado, at the time. So
really?
Joel Namovich was on our Lincoln Land team.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was living out there, and so he got to come to one of the games. But so yeah, man, you keep your mouth shut and you just do your thing.
Yeah.
You speak when spoken to.
Right. Yeah.
You go about your business, and you just stay ready.
Yeah.
And I stayed ready for 30 days. I stayed ready for 30 days, and I'm like, I'm going to be the only guy to get called up in a September call-up and not get to play. Now, we're in a playoff push, and literally we didn't get eliminated until the last day of that season. The last day of that season, we are we got we're in LA. The last series of the season, we're in LA. We need the Dodgers clinch on us the day before, so they're in. We need to win, and we need Houston, I think, to lose. And come about the sixth inning, we're up 10-0.
Yeah.
And we find out that Houston wins, so we're officially eliminated.
Yeah.
And finally, they go, all right, Knoedler, you're going in to catch. And so you can't script this any better. So I go out there and I'm warming up, and first pitch that I catch kind of hits me in the heel and pops out of my glove.
Mm-hmm.
And so who's umpiring but Joe West?
Really?
And I don't know if he remembered me.
I'm about to ask that, yeah.
But he kind of put the ball in my glove and just kind of gave me a look like, catch the ball, kid. Because it might have been even a strike. I don't even know. And so
Are you nervous?
Well, yeah, there was a little nerves, but they basically said you're in, so you don't have time. You don't have time to think about it. And so we get through that inning. No big deal there. And then I think we go out, we go 1, 2, 3, and then I catch one more inning, and then I get my at bat. And so Jason Ellison hits in front of me, and Jason Ellison hits a home run down the left field line.
Really?
Right in front of me. And I'm on deck, and I'm taking a million practice swings. I'm just like, all right, I'm ready. And I get in the box, and first pitch, I freaking hammer it. Just tattoo it to right center field. And I'm like, first pitch. I waited all freaking September, 30 days, and I swing at the first pitch.
Yeah.
But I hit it hard, and who is running down in center field up against the wall, like on the warning track, is Jason Worth. And he catches it, and he doesn't just camp underneath and catch it. I mean, he kind of reaches out, kind of full extension, catches it kind of on the warning track, and then kicks up off the wall.
Wow.
And I'm like, 30 days, one pitch, and the guy that kicked my butt in high school robs me of a double right center field wall.
Yeah.
Chatham Glenwood guy, and so it's a very cool story. I was 4 or 5 feet probably from a home run, and I did reach out to Jason afterwards, and I said, "Hey man, thanks for catching my first major league at bat." And he goes, I didn't know that was your first at bat. He goes, I totally would have alligator armed that thing. But we were up 10-0, so it's not like it mattered. They clinched.
Special, yeah.
And from what I understand, they clinched the night before, so I'm sure they were probably a little hungover from the night before. Yeah. But what a cool story. What a cool story. I got to the next year. I don't want to jump ahead too fast, but I got to catch Jeff Facero in an inning the following year.
That's cool.
And I'm like, okay, what are the odds that I get to catch another Lincoln Land alumni in a major league battery? 40, no, not 40. It would have been 20 years apart, maybe, or whatever it was. So just I didn't get a ton of major league time. I didn't get a ton of major league appearances, but the ones I did were kind of memorable, very memorable, obviously, and very cool. So that first year, one at bat, 0 for 1, robbed by the Chatham Glenwood guy.
Yeah.
And but cool story. Yeah.
I mean,
never forget it.
I got to hear some more about just what your experience was. I mean, obviously you get more major league experience, but Felipe Alou, manager. Yeah. Any interactions with him?
Felipe Alou is just a professional. He could never say my last name right and be like, "Hey, Kay, what's going on, Kay?"
Yeah, I imagine your name has been butchered your whole life.
And that 2004 team was the oldest team in the history of the San Francisco. It might have been the oldest lineup in the history of Major League Baseball, because we had AJ Przinsky was behind the plate. He was the everyday catcher.
Yep.
Then we had JT Snow at first. I'm pretty sure it was Ray Durham at second.
Yep, Ray Durham. Grissom was in that lineup.
Grissom was in center. Rich Aurelia was at short. Pedro Feliz was still probably playing third base. Then obviously we had Moises and Barry and Marquise Grissom. I mean,
Barry was the MVP that year.
Yeah. So watching, going back to just the awe, watching Barry Bonds go about his business.
Please, let's talk about it.
And hitting home runs and breaking the record. I mean, Barry does his thing. Barry, he's a great teammate on the field to the point where he's going to do his job. He's gonna drive in his runs. But Barry's going to keep to himself and do his thing. He was
famous for having his little corner with multiple chairs and TV and stuff. Is that
accurate?
There's
other players that did the same thing, and Barry had the spotlight on him, and he was going to do with it what he wanted. So he
any interactions with him?
There's very little.
Yeah,
very little. There was a time in the batting cage, and I'm pretty sure I've shared this with you. I share this with a lot of kids, and I'm watching Barry Bonds hit off of the iron mic. And he's basically just got the bat in his left hand, and he had his stance that he did. The ball would come in, and he would just kind of flick his wrist and just catch that ball right on the barrel.
I've seen clips of him talking about catching the ball.
Catching it. And so he scoots up, and he's just catching it. He scoots up again. And before you know it, he's like 30 feet from an iron mic, just throwing BBs. Yeah. And he's just catching it on the barrel. And I asked him, I said, hey Barry, what's your thought process there? And he goes, I'm just trying to catch the ball.
Yeah.
And so, and obviously, there's clips, and he's talked about
That's
it.
Cool.
He got into coaching a little bit, hitting coach stuff.
He was the hitting coach for the Marlins for 1 year.
He always talked about slowing the ball down in his mind, and slowing the game down. Everything's going to speed up, so he just slowed it down. And to do what he did, allegations of steroids or whatever, to do what he did, the guy had unbelievable vision.
Yeah.
He had unbelievable hands, unbelievable talent. I mean, he's the best hitter of all time.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want to about all that other stuff. I think Barry Bonds and Ted Williams are the greatest hitters of all time.
Yeah, and you could throw Tony Gwynn up there, different styles, but pure power, Bonds in his prime.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, I'm taking Barry Bonds all day long.
I mean,
if I got to pick one hitter,
I think that
one hitter, one at bat in his prime, Barry Bonds.
That is the peak of what I think a human can do as a hitter. Is what Barry Bonds did.
But you just kind of left him alone. You didn't. You know, I wasn't going to be that rookie that bugged him and all that stuff. But so just kind of wild. And then there was an interaction the last game that I was ever with Barry. This is in 2006, and I've told the story a bunch of times, but I've never bothered him for anything. And there were guys that would get autographs from other teammates, guys and pros on their team, or stars. I never bothered many people for anything.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm gonna regret this if I don't come back.
Just try.
I had to get something from Barry.
Yeah.
So my locker literally was about 5 or 6 feet from where he was at. Like
really?
it was really close, man. Maybe 10 feet. So he had his own little corner. He has the big screen TV and a few lockers, but it was right there. And so I went up to him before our last game in 2006, and I said, Barry, would you mind signing a bat and a ball for me? And he took the ball and he signed his name on it, and I said, would you mind signing the bat too? It just mean a lot to me. And he said, I'm not putting my name on your bat. It was one of my bats. It said Justin Knoedler, San Francisco Giants. He goes, I'm not putting my name on your bat. That'd be an embarrassment. And I said, oh, okay, man. All right, thanks. And he goes, hold on. You guys are just trying to get all my stuff because I'm not coming back next year. And I said, well, Barry, I may not be back next year.
Right.
But so he took one of his bats out, and he said, what's your name again? and so been in the organization for 6 years. 2004, 2005, 2006. So
Who are you?
My locker literally 10 feet. And he puts to Justin, God bless, Barry Bonds.
Hey.
And he signed his bat, and I've still got it. And I was just like, thanks for making me feel, about this big.
Thanks, Barry.
So, but that was really well. There was one other little interaction outside the batting cage one day. I was taking batting practice, and he just kind of noticed something. He goes, "Get in your stance," and he kind of pushes my shoulder and he kind of knocks me over. And he goes, "Get in your stance," and he goes, "You gotta be strong, man. You gotta sit to hit a little bit. You gotta be in your legs, And so there was that, and it wasn't just me. Todd Linden was there, and some other big league guys. Linden could play, and Linden played in the big leagues for a lot longer than I did. But so yeah, there was that. Barry would do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It's to his team.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2004 kind of wrapped up.
Thanks for sharing all that. That was amazing.
Yeah, with me getting one at bat, and so very cool. It was a cool experience. And then that following year.
Hey, before we move on, I've got a bunch of cool clips from guys that were talking about your call up.
Oh yeah.
So let's hear from some other people here for a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Let's start off with Bull on seeing Jay, you make it.
It is. I mean, obviously, from a selfish perspective, it's awesome to see somebody that you worked with and were coached along the way to make it all the way to the big leagues, to see their dreams come true. I mean, that's a feeling that you'll just never forget. And I've been fortunate enough to have that happen with a number of guys. And so to see that happen, and then I'll never forget the day that I went and saw him play. I mean, that's just those are the great times, and just an unbelievable feeling. And from the there's common themes for guys that get that opportunity to get all the way, and their work ethic is just undeniable. Obviously have to be very talented, got to get some breaks along the way, but there's no substitute for work ethic, and he's right up there at the top for sure.
There you go. All right, next up is your brother Jason.
Well, I remember when he called me, it was probably like really late at night, and like really late, like maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he was probably on the West Coast, because I think he was probably in Fresno, and so it was earlier for him, obviously. But he calls, I'm going to answer, and he tells me that he had just gotten notified that he's getting a September call up, and well, there goes my sleep for the rest of the night because I'm so excited and pretty cool. And you just thinking like, okay, how the hell am I going to get out there now? Because I can't wait to get my season over and get out there and see him. And I did. I mean, so he got that call up, And I think I went out there for a couple weeks. They put him up in the for whenever his home stands were, because I wasn't going to follow him on the road. But it was pretty neat, man.
And then O'Malley.
Oh, I mean that's the ultimate that you get to, like I said, in the off season we work so hard together. Yeah. Putting the time in, and then in the season, we don't get to talk as much just because it's the same schedule, very busy. Yeah. But then to get the call, I'm like, hey, dude, I got it. Man. It really makes it all come together, and therefore it gives you hope. It gives, like, I had hope at that point, like when because he got called up first, and so therefore I'm like, man, we can do this, because I felt like we were all kind of fighting together, and so it gave me hope, and so I got excited for him and wanted nothing more than for him to succeed.
Awesome. And then here we got Mama Kay, Teresa, on My Heart Bursts.
My heart was just ready to burst.
Right.
I was so proud and so excited for him. And knowing that a lot of these kids that do get drafted and do play, they don't, was it 1% that actually make it to the big leagues?
Yeah.
Make it to that 40-man roster. But just the experience of them getting to travel all over, see the country, and just the experience of it all was just amazing.
And then lastly, your mom again, but talking about how excited he was.
Can you speak for how excited and how proud John was during this
Oh my gosh.
time as well?
Oh, John was just over the moon. He just, and John was not an athlete. Let's face it. John was the brains of the family. He was, the computer nerd.
Yep. You were the athlete, yeah.
I was more of the athlete, but he was just so excited and so proud. Like I said, there was times you had to kind of kick him under the table and tell him to shut up.
I remember,
I mean, obviously, I would have loved my dad to hear this, and I like to believe that he's looking down, listening to every word. But such a surreal moment. Dad was my biggest fan. My mom always says that Dad bragged, but I think he kept it to a reasonable amount. But who knows? I mean, when you're at your work with your buddies, I mean, and you got a kid that makes it to the major leagues. I mean, why would you not? Let everybody know. He didn't have much else to brag about.
Excited, man.
I mean, he should be proud of his family, obviously, but. No, but there's not a better feeling in the world when you get to call your twin brother, your K team, your buddy and best friend, that you're going to the big leagues, and then to let your parents know that you're going to the big leagues and all the sacrifices that they made to help you get there. I mean, it's just you're thankful, and it's just kind of makes it all worth it, and it's I had a lot of people in my corner, man, and it's nice to kind of relive it and think about those feelings, because there was a lot of sacrifice, from all the way from Little League just to getting you there, and college, and even though we had some scholarships, they still helped us get through college and pay for that, and just give us any opportunity, all the equipment, and you think of everything that builds up to that moment, and then you're there.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously a dad now, and you've got young kids. I mean, I imagine how cool it would be seeing your son realize his dream, get to the ultimate dream. Yeah. It's one thing to play pro ball; it's another thing to get to the big leagues.
Yeah. I'm still blown away with this stat, because people remind me of it all the time, and I like to use my story that I played in the big leagues if it helps me, to a point where I've got a story to tell from a business standpoint, and it helps me get an in for business.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, why wouldn't you use it? I tell people that all the time, but. There's only been 23,000 people that have ever made it to the major leagues.
Wow.
23,000. That doesn't even fill half a stadium. Yeah. And people see that stat all the time, and every year there's only a handful more that make it, a couple hundred, new ones, right? Yeah. And so, it's an elite group. I'm very proud to be part of that group. Yeah. And I'm proud of all the people that helped me get there. I mean, and thankful for all those that helped me get there. And
hell yeah.
Jason coming out was awesome. That was a great trip, man.
Yeah.
I'll always remember that. So yeah, I went to Denver, and then I think right after Denver we went back to San Francisco, and he came out, and I got a room at the Donatello, which was the team hotel, and it was kind of a sweet room. So we went to Fisherman's Wharf, and we went to eat, and he came to every game, and he got to experience it with me to a point, and I wouldn't have had it any other way, So I think Mom and Dad made it out at some point. It was just logistically trying to make everything work. But eventually we made the trek through, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Chicago, Milwaukee, and
some people came out.
Oh yeah, tickets through the woodworks. But back then you didn't have to pay for your tickets.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Well, it was a couple years later where you had to start paying for the tickets. So the first couple of years it was you just put them on the pass list. You got two free tickets to every game.
Yeah.
So and you could share them. So. But surreal moment, man.
Yeah.
And so basically I spent that whole September call up, catching bullpens, working with the guys, staying ready. There was one. What is another funny story? So AJ Przinsky, and he does color commentating for all kinds of things now, but he was only with the Giants for 1 year.
Right.
Happened to be there that year that I got called up. Well, he's warming up the starting pitcher. I think it was Schmitty was throwing down the left field line, and the San Francisco bullpens are on the field. They were on the field at the time, but we had the Olympic gold medalist swim team there to throw out the first pitch, and so there was like 6 or 7 of them. So they needed like 6 or 7 guys to go out there. They were all going to throw it at the same time. Yeah. So I go out there, and I'm one of the guys because they asked me. One of the coaches, like, "Hey, we need a guy." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm waiting, and they're announcing all these things, and I go catch, and I look down, and Przinsky's waving me down, and I'm like, "Hold on, I got to catch this thing." And then I walk out, and you sign the autograph, and then as soon as I'm done, I run down there, and he's like. He goes, "Don't worry about it now, rookie." He goes, I gotta take a crap. Your job is to be down here and warm up the pitcher for me." He goes, "You're not even a big leaguer yet. You haven't even played in the game yet." And I'm like, he's just making me feel this big.
Yeah.
He's hazing the rookie. He's getting on me. But I was like, I was just doing what I was told, man. So, but no, it was cool. We had such an older group, I was
an old team, yeah.
There was an old team there. Went to dinner once with Marquise Grissom.
How was that? Was he a cool guy?
Yeah, he was cool. I think then we had Lance Necro, he was a younger guy, so I'd hang out with him a little bit, and Jason Ellison, some of the younger guys on the team. But it wasn't until the next year when it was like Lincecum and Ortmeyer and some of these other guys that I got to hang with. So,
and I mean, like, what you were getting, like, what was the per diem per day for like money, meal money? And
it was
stuff like
it was about $120
Substantial,
a day.
right? Yeah.
So that's the best part.
And you were getting paid, obviously.
Oh yeah,
better.
no, yeah. So everything you've got to when you're on the 40-man roster, you got a minor league salary and you got a big league salary.
The minimum, right? Yeah.
And everything is per diem.
Yeah.
Or everything is prorated.
Prorated, right.
So, if you spend 30 days in the big leagues, you get 30 days of your big league salary. If you're in the minor leagues, you get, that many days of your minor league salary.
I remember you coming back after that year and be like, I made some money, dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's nice, and you get the big league insurance and all the perks, but the meal money, yeah, I mean, you go on a 7-day road trip and they're handing you dang near $1,000 in cash. But you're gonna pay the clubhouse dues with that. And
what are clubhouse dues in the big leagues?
Like $40 or $50 a day.
Yeah, a little more than the minor leagues when it's like $5. Or,
yeah,
10
it depends on where you're at. I remember AAA being like $12 or $15 a day. But when you're in big leagues, you're eating food, man. You're eating steak and lobster.
Yeah.
That's another story, man. We get on that plane to leave Denver, and again, I'm just following people. I don't really know where I'm going, what I'm doing. All I know is that I got my suit on. They're carrying all my bags. I just need to get on the bus and get on the plane.
Right.
So they pull the bus up to the plane. I go up. I pick a seat. I make sure I don't sit in any of the veteran seats because some, don't sit in seat 25. I mean, that whole row is Barry's seat, number 25, right? So I sit down, and they're still kind of loading everything up, and flight attendant comes by and she goes, "Well, can I get you anything to drink?" And I'm like, "Sure, I can have a bottle of water." I was like, "But what else you got?" They're like, "Oh, we got a full bar, we got this and that." And I was like, "Well, I'll just stick with the water." She's like, "Would you like anything to eat?" And I was like, well, yeah, what do you got? And she's like, well, before we take off, we've got meatball subs, we've got turkey sandwiches, we've got something else. And I'm like, yeah, why not? I'll have a meatball sub, you know? Mm-hmm. So they bring me a meatball sub and a bottle of water. And then we get up in the air, and she comes by again. She goes, well, we're getting ready to start dinner. You know, what would you like for dinner? And I'm like, well, what do you got? She's like, well, we've got steak and shrimp. We've got some lobster and pasta. We've got, you know, this dish. And I'm like, I was like, well, you know, bring me the steak and shrimp.
Yeah.
So I'm eating steak and shrimp. Well, then they come by with a dessert cart, and they've got ice cream bars and M&Ms and Reese's peanut butter cups and everything else. And then they'll bring the beverage cart back and forth, and there's beers and there's shots of Crown and Jack, and I mean, you pretty much get whatever you want.
Man.
And the whole time the guys in the back are playing cards. Mm-hmm. That was one thing Kirk Reeder said to me. He's like, don't play in the card game on the plane. Like, just don't even go back there. Like, you'll get your ass handed to you. So I didn't do that, but I ate like a king. I probably put on 10 or 15 pounds. I was working it off, but I was like, this is crazy. But one thing that you had to do when you were a rookie, and I had some guys that were Jason Ellison, Lance Necro, they always made sure that I was doing what I was supposed to do as a rookie.
Right.
Anytime you got off the plane, they wanted you to grab, you know, a garbage bag and put the extra beer and the liquor in the bag, so that if the guys wanted one on the bus from the bus to the hotel or wherever we were going, if it was a 30-minute commute, the guys would have beer to drink.
Yeah.
So the rookies were in charge of, you know, kind of being the
little things.
Yeah, stuff like that. So, but so yeah, it was a great September. Learned a lot.
Man.
And after that, did I go to instructional league after that year? I can't remember if I would have.
You went to the Arizona Fall League.
Oh, there you go. Was that 2004?
Wait, in 2005.
Okay, so that was
the
after
next season.
Yeah, that was after 2005.
Yeah.
So, so I don't remember if I went to instructional league, but it would have been more of the same if I did. I may not have gone.
Yeah.
But then 2005, I started the year in AAA, Fresno.
When you second though, when you came back after this off season, and obviously you're like feeling like I'm a big leaguer now, or I'm close to it. Any change in how you're operating or anything like that?
No, it was going to be more of the same, you know. Yeah. Obviously the workouts were going well, you know. Yeah. My numbers were doing well. I was having good years. You know, I didn't know where I was still on the 40-man roster. I haven't used up any of my. Well, I guess I did use up an option. So I've been optioned down in the minor leagues one time, so I still had 2 options.
Right.
You know, they ended up getting rid of AJ Przinsky, and they signed Mike Matheny.
Right.
And so
you guys ended up becoming friends.
So again, I was like, okay, they're bringing in another old veteran catcher. Right. No, and he wasn't old, but he was a veteran catcher
on the tail end.
And so I'm like, okay, well, you know, Matheny's great, but they still got Yorvit Torrealba,
right? And
then there's me, and so I'm not gonna start the year in the big leagues unless somebody gets hurt. So I go to spring training, big league spring training.
Is that your first big league spring training?
Actually, no, because I did go to my first big league spring training after San Jose because I was on the 40-man roster. Right. So big league spring training, way better than minor league camp. You know, they're all the breakfast you want to eat. You know, basically you go to breakfast, you get out and you start your day about 9 o'clock. You run through a stretch. You know, then they've got your duties for the day. If there's no game, you're done by noon, 1 o'clock. But if there is a game, you're back in the locker room for 11:30 lunch, and then you're back up, you know, on the field for a 12:30 game,
right? Or
1 o'clock game. So some guys get to go home because they're not going to play that day, and then guys like me were at every game because you never know. Third catcher, fourth catcher, whatever the case may be. But big league spring training is great. They give you all kinds of stuff. You get all your apparel. They order you 24 bats to start the season. So they're going to give you 24 bats to start. You could get sent down a week later to the minor league camp, and you got all you take all that stuff with you. Yeah. So going to the big league camp, you know, obviously the per diem's bigger, all that stuff, but. You want to stay in big league camp as long as you can.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you possibly can.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure I only stayed for about a week or 2. But what they do is they send you down, but then they keep calling you back up.
Right, for games and stuff like that.
Yeah. So So yeah, the second year at Big League Camp, basically in 2005, I go in with expectations like, okay, I'm gonna go to AAA. I'm gonna have a great year in AAA, and we're going to fight for a starting spot.
Called up again.
Torrey Alba's pretty freaking good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been the backup for a while, and but it was great. Mike Matheny was there. Started to kind of get under his wing a little bit, and you want to talk about a guy that's got work ethic, man. That guy is the first guy there and the last guy to leave.
Really?
And so there was a while there where he'd get there at 6:00 and he'd beat me. So I'd be, all right, I got to get there at 5:50 in order to beat him. And then sure as heck, he'd get there. I mean, it's almost like we were playing the game, but we never really talked about it. Like, hey man, you just want to show up at like 5:45 tomorrow? We'll just
Both of us?
Yeah, we're just saying. I'll let you walk in first.
Before you know it, it's like 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
But it was just kind of the way we were wired, man.
Yeah.
And so he had his routine. He had.
And he was cool to you, right?
Oh yeah, he was very cool. And Mike talked about it a little bit in other talks that I've been to of his. You always had some young guy going for your job.
Yeah.
And so he knew when he was with St. Louis that Yadier Molina was eventually going to take his job. But he said there was always other guys that would come up, and he'd go home and tell his wife, be like, yeah, there's another young catcher in camp, but he's not the one. But when Yadi came up, he's like,
he's the one.
He's like, yeah, Yadi's going to be the one that takes my job.
Dang, that's
And so obviously the Cardinals parted ways, and he ended up to the Giants, and then he ended up getting hurt later. But he had a good first year with 2005, and got to work with him for a few weeks there in Big League Camp, and then eventually went my separate ways. But
you guys hunt together or something at one point? Or?
No, we never hunted. But one of the funny things that we did in spring training that year. Mike Matheny was a good leader, good chemistry guy.
Yeah.
So he organized a paintball, for everybody to go to paintball.
Okay.
It was either in the afternoon after a workout or if it was on and off day. I can't remember. But so we go to this big open outdoor desert paintball range.
Yeah.
And we get there and everybody's getting their guns. And, of course, Jason Schmidt and Ray Durham, they go to some store and they buy like these $1,000 guns. I mean, they've got with these big ball loaders and everything. Yeah. And so they're just going to just boat race everybody and kill everybody. But so anyway, we get out there and it's pitchers versus position players.
Okay.
And so Jeremy Accardo, for whatever reason, rips off his shirt. And Mike Matheny just goes, "You're an idiot," and walks up behind him and shoots him puts a big old welt right in the middle of his back. So we're playing paintball, and we're having fun, and pitchers versus catchers, and Chris Carpenter, Matt Morris, and everybody are just kind of doing their thing. And all of a sudden, Mike goes, "All right, this is our last game." He goes, "It's called the Terminator. It's every man for himself." He goes in there and he gets a second gun. He's got two guns. And he goes out in just the middle of the range where he's just wide open, and he just starts shooting all over the dang place. And everybody is just shooting at him, and he's just sitting there wearing it, like not budging, like just showing how tough
like
he
some
is.
Rambo shit or
just
something.
showing how exactly. And so the next morning,
what do you look like?
Oh, the next morning we go to the we always got there early and we sit in the hot tub and warm up and do our shit. He was afraid to take his shirt off because his wife said she counted like 72 welts on his back. And of course, the Giants didn't know we did this. I mean, because they would have been pissed. But we did have one guy, Brian Busher. He ran. He was running away, and he actually slipped, and he ran right into a cactus, and he got cactus thorns in his leg, and he had to go to the ER to get him removed.
Really?
Well, the Giants are clearly going to find out about that, right? Because he's got stitches and everything else in his leg. So they were like, "Well, how'd you do it, man?" He's like, "Well, I was golfing. I was going after my golf ball. I didn't realize that there was a cactus there."
Now the story's revealed. 20 years later.
Yeah. But it was just kind of funny. But these are all stories.
That's amazing. You're dropping some gems for stories.
But yeah, so you didn't get cheated in spring training, man. Yeah. Scottsdale was an unbelievable place. I spent nine different springs out there.
Yeah.
And the Scottsdale is the place, and it's only gotten better. I mean, it's just blown up. I actually went back about 10 years later after I hadn't been there for 10 years, and there's just places I didn't even recognize because it just continues to explode. Mm-hmm. But best restaurants, best weather, easy travel. The place to go for spring training is Arizona. I mean, yeah, you can go down to Jupiter and have a good time, but if you're wanting to see multiple ballparks in a closer range, Arizona all day long.
I got to play some indie ball down there, and it was fantastic.
Were you in Scottsdale? Or
yeah, we actually played at like the Indians and the Reds like spring training places. Okay. So we were like in their big league fields.
So like a Glendale or
that was our home field in Glendale. Yep. Goodyear Centennials, but yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, you can't beat Scottsdale. Yeah. I mean, it's all nice, but they're all within 45 minutes of each other. If that. Yeah.
So fifth year, here we go. 2005, fifth year. I've got you as having a short stint in AA. And then the most of the year in AAA.
In 2005?
Yeah.
You know what? You might be right. I thought that was the following year. Is that
4 games in AA?
Okay. So that's wild. So what happened?
Are we good here? Keep rolling?
Yeah.
Let's go, man.
So what happened? So what happened there was, I do remember this now. So I get sent down to minor league camp, and I'm finishing out spring training, and the whole time I'm like, okay, I just finished my year in AA. I had a great year in AA. Went to the big leagues.
Of course, I'm going to AAA.
Next progression is AAA.
Yeah.
Well, Shane Turner comes out, and he taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, come talk to me. And he was going to be the manager in AAA that year. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I got some bad news for you, man. I'm like, what's up? He goes, you're going to go back to AA to start the season. And I'm like, Shane, what the heck, man? I was like, I hit 275 there last year. I had a great year. Got called up to the big leagues. Like,
it's time to move on.
Like, really? Like, you're sending me back to Norwich? Like, this is brutal. And he goes, I just fought for you like nobody else I've ever fought for. And like, he goes, obviously I want you to come with me. You were my guy last year in AA. And he was beside himself mad, and he's like, but they're making the decision. So I immediately went into just a bad mood.
Really?
Yes. I thought this was a year later, but I guess it makes sense now. So I am just pissed off. I've already made arrangements to get my truck to Fresno.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but we're gonna figure it out. So I'm just kind of, you can see it in my face how mad I am. And veteran guy named Jed Hansen comes up to me and he goes, hey man, I know you're upset. It sounds like I won't be playing with you. You're going to Norwich. I said, yeah, man, I'm just pissed. He goes, he's a big man of faith. He goes, you won't believe the things that God showed me by going places that I've never been, that I didn't think I needed to go to.
Oh, that's cool.
And he worded it maybe a little bit different than that, but he essentially said, keep an open mind. Sure. God's got a plan for you. Okay. And so I took that and I was like, okay. At the same time, I'm like, hell with that. Dude, like, I should be in
AAA, yeah.
And so, I did give it some good thought, and I was like, okay, you know what? I got no choice. Like, I got to make the best of this. I'm still on the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
I'm making the same amount of money whether I'm in AA or AAA because I'm a 40-man guy. Yeah. So I was like, I know a lot of the guys that are in AA. I'll make the best of it. So we go there, and Derek McMains and we find this cabin for rent on Red Cedar Lake. It's called Red Cedar Lake. And I'm just like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to make the best of this. We got this cabin. Yeah. It's got a little canoe. We go and we buy fishing poles. And we buy what did we buy? We bought I bought a guitar.
Okay.
Joey has that guitar today because
he got pretty good at guitar.
He did.
Yeah.
And so we catch the biggest largemouth bass out of this Red Cedar Lake. This cabin was awesome. I mean, it was nothing. It was like $800 a month. Like we're stealing this cabin from whoever's renting it to us. And so Derek McMains was a really good guitar player. I was like, all right, man, if I'm going to be here, you're going to teach me how to play the guitar on our downtime.
Yeah.
So I start learning a few chords. We go fishing and this and that. And about a month later, I get a call, and I'm going to AAA. Yeah. Well, what happened? Mike Matheny's grandma passed away or something like that.
Okay.
So I got called up for a bereavement. And so I was up for 3 days.
In the show?
Yeah, got called up to play 3 days. I didn't play. I didn't actually play. Jorvik Torrealba played.
Yeah.
And so I, instead of going back to Double A, they're like, okay, instead of going back to Double A, you're going to go to Triple A. And I'm just like, all of my stuff is in Double A.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally there for like 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, not even a month. And like I said, you don't even think I played that many games.
No, I bet you were there for a week or two. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so anyway, I go to, so I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure how I got my truck. I have still to this day don't know how I got my truck to Fresno. I don't know if my dad. Maybe my dad. I think my dad might have drove it out.
It sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, they may have drove it out. But
so all's right in the world. Back to AAA.
Yeah, back in AAA. You know, Fresno's great, and I'm just glad to be there. Fresno was a great place to play, man. I got very engaged in the community in Fresno.
Oh, cool.
They did a lot of public appearances, and they paid you for going to these things. You know, we'd go do a commercial, or you'd go to some charity event and sign autographs and stuff like that. And I got a Community Player of the Year award. And
oh, cool.
But Fresno was a great place to hit, a great place to play. It was in it's in downtown Fresno, so it's kind of a suspect area, to be honest with you. But the stadium was beautiful. Loved playing there. Ended up spending quite a bit of time there, actually. 2005, 2006, 2007.
Yep. 85 games played, 287 at bats, 19 doubles, 4 bombs, 272.
Okay.
So strong year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you playing every 2 out of 3 games? What's your split here?
Yeah.
About?
Pretty much. Yeah. We would rotate depending on the heat because it got awful hot in Fresno. So sometimes we go 1 on, 1 off. But and Shane would always ride the hot hand too. So if you were hitting well, man, maybe you would go 2 or 3 games in a row. So, but just a fun time there in Fresno with the same guys, and then got called up again in September. And got a few more at bats that year, but only like 7 or 8. Again, they
got your first hit.
Playoff push. Oh, that's right. That was So I had to wait a whole nother year to get my first major league hit, and that was at that was in San Francisco against San Diego.
Remember the name of the pitcher?
Akinori Otsuka.
Yep.
Setup man for the Padres.
Yeah.
So I think it was a 1-2 pitch, or it might have been 0-2. But there's a slider on the outside corner, and I just hit it right up the middle. And
I remember it.
So they threw the ball in. They threw the ball in, and they gave it to the clubhouse guy. But then Omar Vizquel took it, and he wrote like a bunch of like Japanese lettering on it.
Yeah.
And
the actual ball, he was messing with you.
He was messing with me.
Okay.
It was a fake ball.
Yeah.
It was
That's the game they played.
Yeah, right? It was a fake ball, and they were having fun with it. But so finally I was like 1 for 7 or 1 for 8 or something that year, but every single one of my at bats, I mean, I think I got to face Trevor Hoffman that year.
You did. I haven't noted. What was that like?
Yeah, hey, Knoedler, you're gonna pitch hit. All right, we'll get to face Trevor Hoffman. I'm pretty sure I faced
one of the greatest changeups of all time.
Yeah,
one of the greatest closers.
Yeah,
of all time.
Actually, I hit it very well. I smoked it. Lined out to left field. And they were playing a no double, so he was playing pretty deep. But I hit it hard to left field.
Pretty cool to step in the box against someone like that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I got to face. I think I got to face Maddox in a pinch hit that year too.
You did face Maddox.
Yeah, he struck me out.
Tell me about that.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was a 1-2. Don't even know what it was, but it seemed like it was coming, and then it stopped, and then it started again, and then it dove, and
that's why he's Greg Maddox.
And it was an unbelievable.
Was there any part of you that was like, I'm in the batter's box with Greg Maddox right now, and that's just surreal.
I know,
thing.
man. I know, and it all just kind of happened so fast, and it seemed like every time I got in a bat, it was against a closer or something,
right?
Something like that.
The easiest thing to do.
Yeah, my only start in the major leagues.
One start.
Was against Brandon Webb,
which
was I think he was the Cy Young Award winner the year before.
Yeah, right.
I had 3 choppers.
Not fair.
Best sinker in the game at the time.
Yeah, power sinker.
I hit 3 choppers to third base.
Right.
I mean, and with my swing at the time, that would sound about right. But so the way I was swinging, but anyway. Yeah, not a ton of playing time. I spent almost 100 days in the big leagues and only got like 20 at bats.
Is that frustrating for you? Are you happy to be there?
No,
or
I mean you're there for a purpose. At the time there, you're up in September. They can expand the rosters. They're in playoff pushes. They're trying to at the time they didn't have the DH obviously, so they're pinch hitting for the pitcher. They need to make sure that they're flexible and they can move guys around, and you never want to get caught not having a guy that can catch.
Right.
And so, yeah, don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have gotten more opportunities to show what I can do. I mean, obviously, I started to really do well offensively. Double A, triple A, hitting 260, 270.
Yeah.
Very respectable offensive numbers. They always wanted a little more power, but as a catcher, with being a defensive catcher at the time, I mean, it wasn't expected that catchers put up stupid numbers.
No.
Now they want them all to hit 30 home runs and strike out. They don't care if they strike out 200 times.
Right.
So definitely just kind of hold my own offensively, still doing my job behind the plate.
Yeah.
But yeah. I would have liked to have gotten a few more.
Yeah, and then I want to comment on this. Catching is unique in baseball, and not everyone understands this. Like, you can be, phenomenal with the glove and the arm as a catcher and handle a staff well, and just handle the bat enough to be serviceable, and you can make a big league career out of that as a backup catcher. You can. It's different. Catching is different than other positions.
Yeah, and the way they were kind of moving with some of the moves that they were making, so. Yeah, they called me up on bereavement. They called me up in September, but they never really gave me a chance to show what I could do because they were either in a playoff push, Felipe Alou. They weren't going to rebuild while Barry was around.
No.
I always thought, okay, well maybe if I had a chance to play for Bochy, but then they also drafted Buster Posey, so and he came in right after me, right after I left the organization. Yeah. So you never know, but. Obviously, I would have liked an opportunity to see. Okay, give me a month or two of playing time to see what I can do.
Yeah, at least let me see if I
can getting one at bat against a closer here and another bat against a closer here and a Hall of Fame
like that.
What do you expect?
Well, yeah, it's impossible.
So, but so yeah, that call up a little bit more of the same, man. You feel comfortable around the guys. You're just waiting. You just want an opportunity to play. There's probably a few times where I got put on deck. On the on-deck circle and never got in, but so wasn't really
right.
Yeah, wasn't really thought of as a go-to guy while I was up.
Right.
So
I've got you going to the Arizona Fall League.
Yep.
And this is cool. Playing for the Mesa Solar Sox. 3 notable names on that roster that I looked at.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what names I'm going to say?
Joey Votto.
Yep.
Matt Merton was on that team. But notable. I'm trying to think of Ryan Hannigan was on that team.
I've got Joey Votto. DK was on this team.
Oh yeah, Donnie. Yeah, because Donnie and I lived.
Kelly.
Well, Donnie and I lived together. That's right. We roomed together.
Yeah, and one of Jason's best friends. I interviewed him for the Justin Knoedler podcast. He's the bench coach now in the big leagues.
Yeah,
for the Pirates, right?
But did we live together? Him and Preston Larson. I think we lived right next door to him.
And Dan Orman.
Orty.
Yeah,
Orty and I lived together, but we lived right next to Donnie and Preston Larson. That's right.
Okay.
So we hung out a lot with Donnie. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What was that? I mean, it's a big deal.
Arizona Fall League. I mean, that you want to go to the Arizona Fall League. There's a lot of hype. That's where you can basically. You always got to remember, you're not just playing for the San Francisco Giants. You're playing for
the other teams.
You're showing off for every team.
100%.
And so you only get 6 spots usually in the Arizona Fall League. You gotta lobby for a catching position or infielder or whatever pitching positions. But great experience. We had 3 catchers, I think, and so we all kind of split time. I don't remember performing that great in the Arizona Fall League. Kind of a quick season.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have numbers? Do you have stats on that?
I don't.
Okay. I was just curious. I don't remember playing like exceptionally well, like to make other teams really want me.
Right.
But like I said, it's a quick like 30 games.
I want to say it was somewhere like low to mid 2s. I remember I saw the batting average, but I didn't write it down.
Yeah, that would make sense. And so I do remember Joey Votto because I had a Mizuno contract. Everything I had was head to toe Mizuno.
Yeah,
you did. Catcher's gear, batting gloves, and everything. Well, Joey Votto wasn't Joey Votto yet.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Let me hear it.
He loved my batting gloves.
Really?
Loved them. He was like, "Oh man, if you got any more of those, man, like, look, can I get some of those batting gloves?" So I remember giving him a few pairs of my batting gloves because he just loved them so much. And I'm like, "Well, I got like 3 boxes of these things, man." So I'll call him up. Hey man, remember I give you those batting gloves, man?
That's awesome.
Yeah, Joey Votto. He was kind of a quiet dude and just a different dude.
I mean, he's come out as like a pretty interesting personality and very beloved in the game, and obviously he's probably borderline Hall of Fame guy. And
yeah. I remember all the Reds guys were on that team. So it was him, Ryan Hannigan. There was another tall, goofy pitcher, Sampson or something like that, Simpson. But yeah, I forgot it. I did kind of forget that Donnie Kelly and Preston Larison were on that team.
DK.
But yeah, that's right.
Before we move on, I got a little Dan Ort clip here on your arm. More on the arm. Dan Ort on the arm.
Yeah. No, the arm was always plus regardless of the level. But yeah, as a catcher,
I mean, did that even stand out in pro ball? In like minor. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, it wasn't it wasn't close a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
wow.
The arm was just it was incredible. Super athletic, able to move, shifty behind the plate. Once again blocked well. Through runners, I don't remember his stats, but I don't ever remember, having issues with guys just stealing bases all over the place. Obviously, accurate. And man, he, back to the work ethic. He really worked well with the staff, right? Had a heart for the staff and what the pitcher was trying to execute, that night or even specifically to that pitch. At that time, the analytics weren't what they are now. So the scouting reports, in AA, AAA were not super complex, but they were there, right? And something that I think the people like Justin would actually spend time sitting with the pitchers and running through the preparation for the game. And then obviously when we got to the big leagues, he was always working with the staff, spending time with the staff, trying to just figure out and build a relationship that would benefit everybody that night on the field.
The scouting reports in the big leagues were insane. Yeah. Now everything's digital. They got more analytics than they know what to do with. We got a stack of paper.
Really?
Oh my God! Every time the amount of paper that was wasted, there's got to be a better way. Obviously there is, but I remember my first stacks of scouting reports. I wonder if I kept any of them. But they were a couple inches thick, and it was just a mountain of paper of spray charts and stats of the last 5 games, 10 games, you name it. And we'd have to try to thumb through all that, and it would just
so much information.
And we'd always meet as a staff, before every series, like, look, this is how we're going to pitch these guys and whatever. But I wonder if Orty remembers. I remember being in AAA, like, if him and Fred Lewis were struggling. We'd go in the batting cage, and I'd go up on the mound that was in the batting cage, and I would freaking pitch to him.
Really?
Oh, I would throw BBs at him. I'd be like, come on, man, I'll get you going. Like, and I would wind up. I'd give him the wind up like I do with a lot of my lessons. Yeah. And I'd just throw BBs and just get him going. And so,
I love it.
I was always willing to do that, man. So, but Orty, he didn't comment on my running skills. Did he ever comment on that? I thought for sure he would. He always made fun of me about my running.
I don't remember. What would he have made fun of you about?
So we were in Norwich together, and they had a picture on the front page paper of the next day of me getting out of the box, and I'm basically coming out of the box like, perfect form, hips to lips, Yeah. And he always made fun of me. Because whenever we were doing our pregame calisthenics, our warm-up drills, we're doing like high knees, butt kicks, and all that. Yeah. I would be perfect form, and my hands would be hips to lips, and I'm just doing these things full effort all the time. Got to be first, and he'd be like, "There's Knoedler, making us all look bad. Look at that form." I'm like, "Yeah, man, hips to lips, let's go." And so he sees this picture. And he posted on my locker, and he goes, Knoedler after getting a walk. And it's really like me hustling out of the box. And so
that's great.
It was great. There was another Tyler Von Schell, my other roommate in Norwich, since we're telling the stories. So we had this promotion on the field where they would bring out a car and they would park it down the right field line, and they would roll down all the windows, and they would pull a fan out of the stand, and the fan would go out to center field with a Frisbee. And if the fan could throw the Frisbee into the car from center field, it would have to go in. It had to go in the driver's side or in the passenger side and go out the driver's side. So it had to be
impossible.
Basically impossible.
Yeah, right.
It's like why are they even doing this? Like, and it was always like it was like a $5,000 car, so it wasn't like an expensive car. So I'm literally warming up the pitcher in between innings, and here comes my Chevy Avalanche onto the field for the promotion.
Courtesy of Dan?
Courtesy of Dan Ortmeyer and Tyler Von Schell.
How did he not tell me this?
They stole my keys out of my locker, and they gave it to they said, will he care? And they're like, no, he's going to think it's hilarious. And so sure as hell, here it comes. And I'm like, here I'm just laughing my ass off behind the plate. And Tyler Von Schell's at first base, and he can't even keep a straight face. And Orty's in right field, so he's loving every bit of it. He's right there. And I was just like, this is great, man.
Oh, my God. That's the good stuff, buddy.
Oh, my God. It was great.
I love it.
So I got to tell another story about Norwich since we're in this. But so we had this bat boy. His name was Max. And loved the game, kind of I don't want to say a little nerdy kid, but he was just there, man. Baseball junkie, he's the bat boy, and he'd help out in the clubhouse and this and that. Well, it turns out that his dad is like a world-class artist.
Really?
Yeah, to do a portrait of anybody. Now, have you seen that painting that I have? Maybe
yes.
Have you seen? Okay,
yes.
So this is the painting. So
that's where it came from.
So. One day we go down for batting practice, and Max's dad is in the dugout, and he's just sketching up this drawing on this big canvas. And so after batting practice, I taken a look at it, and he's got it pretty detailed. And I'm like, "What you doing there, man?" He's like, "You'll see." And so go back about a half hour later, and it's me.
Yeah.
And so. I'm like, man, that's really good. And at this point, it's just pencil, it's just black and white,
right, and
everything. So the next day he comes back and he's working on it some more, and it's a beautiful day. And then you're just checking out, like, hey, it's looking good, man. He's like, hey, man, I'm going to be ready for you in about a half hour. Can you come down here in about a half hour? I want to get your skin complexion right. And so he has me sit there, and he's looking at my skin, and he's just matching it up. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, if you see that, you've seen the portrait.
I've seen it.
I show it to people, and like, oh my God, like the fingernails look like they're real. Yeah. Like it's just an unbelievable portrait. And I'm like, his name was Dennis, and I said, Dennis, what are you gonna do with that thing, man? He goes, well, actually, I'm gonna enter it into a contest, and after that, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, well, let's talk afterwards. I was like, it's a portrait of me. I was like, I don't know, my parents might like it or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I ended up paying for it. Yeah. I said, what do you normally charge somebody to do? He's like, well, it's normally a couple $1,000s. And I was like, wow, man. He's like, I tell you what. I was like, the canvas, and this and that. He goes, I'll sell it to you for $400.
Basically cost.
Yeah. And I said, well, I appreciate that, man, because I was like, I really wouldn't want to pay that much money for the portrait. But he's like, no, he goes, I want you to have it. He goes, but if you're willing to do that, and I was like, well, I appreciate it, man. So I've still got it, and it's downstairs in my basement.
Is it?
For a while there, when I was living with Bobby Knoll in the off season, I was about
to bring this up.
I hung it up on the.
I was going to bring it up.
As a joke. Of
course.
Like above the mantle here, I've got this huge oil painting of myself. I was
because there used to be a thing of like a rumor that A-Rod had something like that, or like some guys like that have like a portrait of themselves, as like a centaur or something crazy. But you had it up as a joke, obviously.
Yeah, and at this time I started dating Ann right after.
That was hilarious. That was when you were in Noel's like kind of spare bedroom or not?
Well, yeah,
room,
it was a lofted. It was an extra edition lofted room in his house.
It was awesome. Yeah.
It was just a place for me to kind of crash during the off season. It was great. But
that was a sweet spot for you.
Yeah, but at this point, I'm dating my wife, my wife now.
Yeah.
At the time, we started dating after that 2004 season, and she didn't think it was that funny. She thought I was just a conceited ball player.
I thought it was hilarious when you put it up. That was. And where is it now?
It's in my basement. It's I don't have it hanging.
It's not up anywhere.
Well, no, I'm doing a basement project now. I'll probably put it somewhere. I don't know where yet. So
man, I love that.
So
how are you doing here?
No, I'm okay. I mean, we can do whatever. We can take a break if we want, or we want to resume at another. Yeah, it's already 11:30. I didn't realize how late it was.
We've been rolling.
So, but yeah, I think we're probably at a good point where we can stop and dive.
Pause it here.
Back in. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. We are. Yeah, we're like in our 6th year here. Cool. All right, we'll pause it. All right.
Yeah. So what did we get through there?
Actually, let me roll us out here. So we're gonna go ahead and stop here. We'll call this part 2. We'll pick it back up here later. So. This has been amazing. Post-game spread, part 2. We're out. Cool. This has been amazing. A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Sitco Chiropractic. They can be reached at 217-525-2035 and sitcochiropractic.com. They offer chiropractic care, corrective exercises, lifestyle advice, nutritional counseling, spinal and postural screenings. They are located at 205 North Grand Avenue. Love the Sitco family. From the dad, Steven, to Kyle and Casey, I grew up with them. Their brother, Tyler, was a big-time baseball player at SHG and SCI. There's a reason they have over 70 ratings on Google, and they're all 5.0. These guys are great. I went to them a few years back for some back issues I was having. They'll fix you right up. Go see Sitco Chiropractic. We are also brought to you by Cornerstone Financial Services, specifically the founder and my buddy, Ryan Kaiser. We were part of the Dance Dads together. We met while our daughters were doing ballet. Love this guy. They're a huge baseball family. His son plays for the Arsenal. They're doing a baseball stadium tour. You can get a hold of Ryan he specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, and is a certified financial planner. Love this guy. Go support them. Appreciate you.